coaching staff
have strong opinions.
What a whiny freaking crybaby response.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios today. Ian is here today. Hello, Ian.
What up, what up?
I said this yesterday, that it feels disingenuous. It feels unfair to the Titans that on this program, we spent 4 days bemoaning the team, angry at the team, talking about the coach of the team. You know, we were yelling and screaming and everything else for 4 days last week. And with the Bengals win, it was kind of like, okay, like, yay, good win, on to the Colts. And that just doesn't feel right. It just doesn't feel right to sit here and say, hey, we're going to, hey, good job, Titans. You won 27-3. You lose 27-3. We have a funeral for you. We have a wake for you. We set Shiva for you. All these things. You win 27-3, and on Tuesday, we're sitting here talking about Anthony Richardson. It's like, what in the world's going on around here? So there is still some stuff to unpack from the Bengals victory on Sunday. And I want to start right there with Jared's Film Room.
You are now entering Jared's Film Room.
Ian, I put it up this morning. I watched all of the offensive snaps. I didn't watch defensive snaps. Don't feel like I need to watch the defensive snaps. I watched all of the offensive snaps, both angles of it, to see how the offense had the performance that they had. And I look at, the Bengals game, and everybody's talking about Joe Burrow. And I think Joe Burrow's a huge part of it, right? Like, how can we fairly judge how your defense played when Joe Burrow is at 30%? But the Titans kicked a field goal on the first drive. They punted on the second drive. They scored a touchdown on the third drive. They scored a touchdown on the fourth drive. And they scored a touchdown on the fifth drive. Then they got the ball to start the second half, and they drove the ball for 10 minutes and 22 seconds and kicked a field goal. And at that point, it was 27-3, and it was over. So everybody can talk about Joe Burrow all they want, and they can talk about Joe Burrow's injury, and they can talk about, well, it's not the same Joe Burrow, and that's true. But what about Cincinnati's defense? And what about that Titans offense? So when I watched the tape, the one thing I looked at was kind of a question I threw out there yesterday, which was, I know the offensive line played better than they played against Cleveland, but I wanted to know why. Was it because Cincinnati's front is not as good as Cleveland's? I think there's probably something to that. Then again, Cincinnati has a pretty good front. Hendrickson is a really good player, took over the game on Monday Night Football last week against the Rams. B.J. Hill and D.J. Rader are good defensive tackles. And Sam Hubbard's a good outside backer on the other side. Like, they got good players on that front. And we spent all week talking about, well, there's no way they can block this front, not the way that they were blocking at Cleveland. So, Ian, what is the first and the most important part of fixing a problem?
Usually admitting the problem.
You have to admit that you have the problem. And that's exactly what the film says Tim Kelly did. Tim Kelly called a whale of a football game on Sunday. And you don't need me to tell you that because you saw the 27 points. But it goes even further than that. He has embraced the offensive line struggles by giving them help. That was what they did. We sat here last week. I asked Vrabel on Wednesday, are you going to block Andre Dillard one-on-one with Trey Hendrickson? And Vrabel was like, well, at some point you're going to have to win them. And I was like, oh, no, you can't do that. But at the same time, Vrabel's not going to get up there and say, no, Jared, we are not going to do that because, our game plan is to double him or our game plan is to chip him or, he's not going to give away the game plan. Because the Titans gave their offensive line help. Every time Tannehill went to throw the ball outside the numbers, whether it was to Westbrook-Akine, whether it was to Moore, whether it was to DeAndre. Every time he went to throw the ball down the field outside the numbers, the Titans had at least 6 guys blocking. Most of the time, they had 7. They used the extra tight end as essentially a 6th offensive lineman. Sometimes it was Wesco, sometimes it was Wiley, a couple of times it was Chig. And they did a really good job of using Tajay Spears as a blocker. Spears had some good chips. Okonkwo had a good block on the outside. What they were doing at sometimes is they'd have Okonkwo lined up on Hendrickson. And again, that's because of, the foot speed of Dillard. And then they drop Aaron Brewer behind Chig so that it was almost like there were 2 lines of defense. So anytime Tannehill had to throw a ball outside the numbers, anytime that Tannehill wasn't just 1-2, boom, ball out, which we'll get to that in a second, they used more than 5 blockers. They looked at their offensive line, and they said, we cannot block the Cincinnati Bengals mano-a-mano. When they rush 4 and you've got 5, you can't block them. And they knew it. And the number one step to fixing any problem is to realize that you have the problem. Instead of saying, well, you know what, we're just going to have to suck it up and block them. The Titans said, no. We're not going to get beat this way. Now, if the Cincinnati secondary is so good that NWI and Chris Moore and DeAndre, they can't get open, now you've got a bigger problem. But with the play action to bring up the linebackers and their single high safety the whole time, it was a brilliant plan. Now, anytime Tannehill threw the ball inside the numbers, think about, kind of those strike routes to Wiley, the one that set up the touchdown. Think about a strike route for a 13-yard gain to Okonkwo. Then there were a couple to Hopkins in there. Anytime they do that, they'd block with 5. But it was, the ball was snapped, 1-2, boom, ball out. Every time. Including one time where Tannehill threw the ball to Wiley, and I actually wrote in my notes, I think Tannehill threw the ball to the wrong guy because the Bengals had a safety, and the safety was coming down to Wiley, and if Tannehill had waited a second, he could have thrown the ball over the top for more, but because Tannehill was probably told, hey, man, on these quick routes, these man beaters, it's 1-2, boom, ball out. You cannot sit back in that pocket against that pass rush. Not when we've got 5 guys blocking. So there were multiple times where they had Wesco as the 6th offensive lineman, where they had Spears helping out, and Spears played a real role in pass protection. Okonkwo, Wiley, they used them all. The Titans decided they were not going to leave Tannehill back there to get killed, which is amazing given what happened the week before. And see, this seems to be the conundrum with Tim Kelly, which is most people who are smart are usually smart all the time. Like, even if it's not an area of expertise for them. For me, I would say it's probably talk radio. And I don't think that I'm an expert in fixing a sink. But when it comes to having a broken sink, I feel like I take the smart steps of figuring out how to get the sink fixed. When it comes to Tim Kelly, he's drawing up some of these plays that I really am just dropping my mouth and saying, wow, what a great idea. The 2 times that they dropped Aaron Brewer, it looks like a center or a guard going to pull, like on a running play, and they dropped Aaron Brewer behind the tackle or the tight end who was standing out there to help and support so that Tannehill could step up and throw a ball outside the numbers. It was beautiful. And I just kept noting, ball out quick, 6 into block, gain of 10 for Okonkwo. They blocked well. Now, I don't want to take anything away from the line or the tight ends or anybody else because they did do their jobs, and that is the most important part here. But Tim Kelly called a whale of a game. When you flip on the tape and you see what the Titans were trying to do. The Titans basically told the Bengals, all right, you've got one of two options. Either you're going to commit guys to stop Derrick Henry, but if you do that, we're going to have man coverage on the outside, or you're going to run those soft zones, and we're going to pick you apart. Or you can let Derrick Henry run the ball up the middle, and he'll score a touchdown every time. And given the fact that the Titans have played Lou Anarumo, and if I'd had more time this morning, I would have watched the playoff game, and I would have watched the game last year. Lou Anarumo has kind of shut down Derrick Henry the last couple of years. My guess is the Bengals walk into these games against the Titans and they say, whatever happens, we're not going to let number 22 beat us. Well, as we saw in the Charger game, when a team is dedicated to stopping the run, what they're going to do is bring one more guy than you can block. Whether that's a safety, a linebacker, whatever it may be, they were so dedicated to keeping the Titans from blowing it open by running the football that everybody was singled up. And so all Tannehill has to know is, hey, can Chris Moore outrun this guy? Can DeAndre Hopkins get himself open against Cam Taylor-Britt? And then Tannehill just put the ball in the perfect spot every time. But the game plan that the Titans came up with was marvelous. And this wasn't just, again, the play calling, which I thought was really good. But the play design I thought was fabulous. And I think that it's more, we talk about Tim Kelly. The one thing I really have to attribute this to is Vrabel, because it involves more than just the play caller or even the play designer, right? Like, think about the tight ends and the usage that they had, where Wesco was essentially a sixth offensive lineman, and Josh Wiley played a big role as a blocker and as a pass catcher. Well, that's Tony Dews, the tight ends coach, that has to make sure Josh Wiley is ready for that. And then he's got to be in sync with the offensive line, and so the offensive line coach has to be on the right page. So I got to say that I felt like the Titans' game plan, just looking at the tape, I thought it was fabulous. And it was more the passing game plan than it was the running game plan. I mean, we know what the running game is, right? Block them up, get the backs out there, get the tight ends out there, and then, let Derek and Tajay Spears find the hole and hit it. Well, that's what those zone runs are for anyways. But the passing game, the Titans looked at the Bengals secondary and said, if you don't help your guys, we're going to feel comfortable throwing the ball to DeAndre Hopkins, Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, and Chris Moore. And then everything behind that was executed and coached perfectly. I mean, the Wiley, Spears, those guys blocking, I thought it was fabulous. Now, I don't think you can do this every week. Like, if you're playing the Saints secondary, you can't do that because your guys can't win those one-on-one matchups against the Marshawn Lattimores of the world. Now, this week, the Colts, their secondary is not very good. I mean, they let Puka Nacua catch the ball for about 9,000 yards on Sunday. So maybe you'll be able to do something similar. Plus, I think the Colts defense kind of sucks. But that's a different discussion for a different day. I'm just looking at this Bengals film, and I got to say, Tim Kelly called a whale of a ball game and had a whale of a scheme to go out there on Sunday for the Titans. 615-737-1025. That's how we're starting today, 615-737-1025. Now, I was a little surprised when I actually, kind of saw these offensive linemen and how they did and who played well and who didn't play well and all that kind of stuff. I actually was stunned. Stunned that's probably a little stretch. But I was surprised by something that all of us were scared to death going into this game. We'll get to that coming up next. 615-737-1025 is our phone number if you want to weigh in. We'll be giving away Preds season opener tickets later today on the program. So be excited about that. Home season opener here on the program. And tune in to 93.3 Classic Hits tomorrow for MTSU football. The Blue Raiders will kick off at 7 against Jacksonville State. Pre-game begins at 5:30, and coverage is also available on the 93.3 Classic app and 93.3classichits.com.
The Titans are 2-2 after 1 month of the season.
6 minutes, 21 seconds, 3 touchdowns. When Jeff Simmons came in the game, I was fooled.
What can they expect from the Colts this week?
Do our job and we get going. And I think a lot of that is attributed to what you do in practice.
About a 6.5 minute stretch there where the Titans looked as good as they've looked in a while.
Keep it locked to Nashville's best Titans talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Twin Peaks is the best in the game. Here, you're in the red zone for every college rivalry and divisional matchup all season long. On game day, you never have to decide which teams to watch, only what combination of bites, burgers, wings, and more to order. Plus, where else are your favorite draft beers always poured at a frozen 29 degrees? Only at Twin Peaks, the #1 sports bar.
Get wings the way you want them. Try Twin Peaks wings bone-in breaded, naked, smoked and grilled, or boneless in your favorite sauce or rub.
Penalty Box Radio Live is back. Join Alex Doherty and Sean Smith every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. for a full hour of local hockey talk, full analysis of the Nashville Predators. Honest hockey talk like you've come to expect from the Penalty Box Radio brand over the years. Penalty Box Radio is back home on 102.5 The Game for the 2023-2024 hockey season. For more, check them out at penaltyboxradio.com.
This is Blaine Bishop, 4-time Pro Bowler and former safety for the Tennessee Titans. In football, sometimes we add new plays to the playbook to prepare for our next opponent. That's what boosters do for our immune system. They keep us game ready and our bodies healthy. I chose to get boosted to stay prepared and game ready. Make sure you're up to date on your shots. Talk to your doctor. Find out if you need to get boosted. Gear up, Tennessee. Go to vaccines.gov to find out where you can get a booster today.
Nashville's Best Deals is a great place to save cash fast. Get up to half off or more on dining and entertainment at thegamenashville.com/deals. Check back often for new featured deals and save money now at thegamenashville.com/deals.
Want to weigh in on the conversation?
It's a brain booster.
Slide into our DMs. Or just text or call at 615-737-1025. Our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Strong opinions and a strong personality on your drive home. This is Stillman and Company on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
We saw on film how that offensive line worked. Were you happy with that improvement there?
Yeah, I mean, there were some good finishes. I mean, again, when we took the ball at the end there and were able to run the football and have the clock and run the clock out when they knew we were going to run, I thought that was a good ending to an efficient day on offense. You know, it could go one of two ways, right? 3 plays and punt and have to go back there and, play defense probably, Going to win the football game, but you're going to have to go and rush and cover them. And we want to end the game with the football, and we did that. I thought we protected better. Thought there were a few lapses. I thought they got us on the 1 3rd down with the TE with the game over there. Brew trying to probably do a little bit too much. It was kind of working to the left side and came back over to help, and Dylan was going to work back out and kind of gave up a cheap one there. So as long as we just all do our job, I think winning one-on-one in this league will always be something that'll be beneficial for us if we can do that in all 3 phases.
Here you go, Vrabel talking about the offensive line. Long story short, they played better. Now, here's what I was stunned by when I actually watched tape. Andre Dillard actually had an okay game. I know Andre Dillard stinks. We all know that. But he actually had a good game. He got smoked inside by Trey Hendrickson once on a run play for Derrick Henry that gained a yard. He got worked on the quick snap by Hendrickson after that Chris Moore catch that Ian and I don't think necessarily was a catch, but the fans get mad every time we say that, but it probably wasn't a catch before halftime on the sidelines. And so the Titans then ran up to the line of scrimmage to run a play, and Dillard probably wasn't really ready to go on that play, and so Tajay Spears got hit in the backfield for like a 5-yard loss. And then there was one play, he got called for an eligible man downfield. Tannehill hit Westbrook Akine for a big gain. And he got called, Dillard did, for an eligible man downfield. And I circled it in my notes from the TV copy, and I say, I want to be able to see this once I get access to the film. And when I watched it on the film, I saw him run down the field like 8 yards. It's like he thought it was a running play. I mean, it negated a huge gain. Let me see exactly how big that was on the throw to NWI. 25 yards. Tannehill complete NWI for 25 yards. And I wrote on my thing, good call, but WTF was Dillard doing? What was he doing? It looked like he was running down there. Put the ball to Cincinnati 25. Let's see. I believe that you ended up, you punted. So he killed you on one drive there while the game was kind of over. But outside of that, Dillard had a pretty good game. And I will say this, if Andre Dillard only kills you for one drive in a game, I think we should consider that a win. So Dillard actually had a good game. Brunskill gave up a sack. Brewer got, big boyed once where he got pushed back pretty badly. But the only guy on the offensive line that the Titans have right now who's a problem, or at least was a problem on Sunday, because Dillard still probably is a problem, was Radens. He's terrible. I mean, folks, I know he's like the feel-good story, like a Disney movie, where they drafted him in the second round with high expectations that he could play tackle, and then they deactivated him his rookie year in the playoffs because he was no good, and then they gifted him the right tackle spot in training camp only for him to lose it because he was terrible. And then he had a couple of games at guard last year, and he was the backup that never could. And then they put him in there for a second, and he tore his ACL, and he worked his way back, and he gets out there in the Charger game, and he's not as bad as Xavier Newman-Johnson, who just lets the other guys run right by him and go hit the quarterback. And so everybody wants to hear good things about Dillon Radens, but he freaking stinks. I mean, he's awful. He holds on every play. They called it a couple of times. He almost never, socks a guy back. In pass protection, he's going to get Tannehill killed because what the Titans want the tackles to do is push the guys to the outside so Tannehill can step up into the pocket and make a throw. But Radens can't push anybody back. They push Radens in, so Tannehill will be stepping up into Radens. I mean, I watched that Bengals tape, and even though the Titans' offense was on fire, I came away from that saying, Lord, please let Peter Skoronski be healthy on Sunday against the Colts, because Radens is horrible. Again, Dillard, I think we all kind of have our issues when it comes to Dillard. I think we all kind of have our disappointments when it comes to Dillard. But, woo! I tell you, that Radens out there, he is terrible. And the tape, they always say the eye in the sky doesn't lie. I used to ask Floyd one time, I said, if you get into a discussion, right, in an argument inside the facility, you're senior football advisor for the Patriots, and, Nick Caserio is whatever his title was, and you and Caserio disagree on something before you go to Bill. And you say, no, I think he's good, and you think he's bad. Like, how do you decide? He goes, oh, there's no arguing in the facility. It's just go put the tape on. And you watch this Radens play. Woo! Woo! Now, one thing that I do need to go back and watch is the difference in how they react off the ball at home when they know the cadence as compared to when they're on the road. Because it is clear that they are having some kind of issues in terms of the silent counts and getting the snap off and getting off the ball. Now, maybe it's because the Saints have some good pass rushers and the Browns have some good pass rushers, and the Colts don't really have the kind of defense or the kind of pass rushers that those other teams had. But there's some kind of issue that they've got right there. I don't know exactly what they're supposed to do. But, man, I tell you, that Radens, he's horrible. The amount of people that were saying, we should give him a game ball for the way he played against the Chargers. Woof. I mean, again, not that this is Charger tape we're talking about, but he's awful. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Texter says, Aaron Brewer was a bad boy on those pulling plays. I got to be honest with you. I mean, I had I mean, I don't even think I had anything in my notes where I looked at Aaron Brewer and said, boy, that was a great block by. Oh, no. Tannehill had an incomplete pass to Chris Moore, and I thought that he ended up getting a good block from 55 on that play. But, no, I don't. I mean, Aaron Brewer's just a guy. Aaron Brewer is overpaid by about $2.5 million. The Titans should have never given him that contract. They should have, instead of giving him the second-round tender, they should have given him the right of first refusal, knowing that no other team in the league was going to offer Aaron Brewer a contract, because that's how restricted free agency works. And it was a complete rookie mistake by Mike Vrabel, and they overpaid for Aaron Brewer on a team where they went out with their hands, give Aaron Brewer less money to have Aaron Brewer be the same replacement level player that he is. And I hate to sound like a jerk when I say that, because people get mad at me. They say I'm not giving them enough credit, or I'm not doing this, or whatever it may be, but that's the reality of the NFL. And again, like I said, rookie mistake from Mike Vrabel, and we're going to see those with the Vrabel-Carthon as this continues on, some more rookie mistakes. One texter texts into the text line and says, what would you do with Nicholas Petit-Ferrer? Would you play him this week? No, I would not, because Chris Hubbard, I think, is doing a pretty decent job. But you got to give credit to the coaching staff for this one. Vrabel won't give credit to the coaching staff, but I'll give credit to the coaching staff for how they treated the offensive line. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. I've got Tim Kelly through 4 games. I've got Arthur Smith with Mariota as his quarterback through 4 games. And I've got Todd Downing through 4 games. What to make of these stats? We'll get to that coming up next. 615-737-1025 if you want to weigh in. Make your silly underdog picks for your chance to win weekly prizes, and you can play at theGameNashville.com or the 1025 The Game app as we approach the Week 6 of the college football season and Week 5 of the NFL. Silly Underdog Picks is presented by Volunteer Hose and Gasket.
All the big plays.
Henry, touchdown, Tennessee!
All the big stories.
I fully expected DeAndre Hopkins wanting a 1-year deal.
All in one place. We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3.
Touchdown, Tennessee!
You're going to make a trade like this.
Does he want to retire a Tennessee Titan?
The door's on the board.
Such superstar players. The Game and the Game Nashville app.
20 years ago, when Genesis Diamonds came to Nashville, this was one of the most expensive cities in America for diamond jewelry. Our radical approach and no middleman pricing changed that forever. And now we're doing it again, this time with lab-grown diamonds. We were shocked to find out what the other mall stores and the other big radio advertisers were charging. For example, they sell their platinum 4-carat VS2 lab-grown earrings for $13,480. Ours are 40% less with better diamonds. Their 5-carat lab-grown diamond earrings are $17,950. Ours are half that price with better quality, 50% less at Genesis. Looks like they might be going back to the old ways. If they're charging this much on lab-grown diamonds, kind of makes you wonder what else they're selling at the same outrageous markup. Nashville, we are not going backwards. At Genesis Diamonds, our non-commissioned trusted advisors are here to give you all the information with details you can trust and prices you can count on. Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs.
When getting the job done right is job one, you need construction equipment that's built right. From compact track loaders to the world's #1 selling compact excavator, the Kubota construction lineup features durable Kubota engines, more comfort, and the versatility to do it all and do it right. Visit your local Kubota dealer today. Go to KubotaUSA.com for full disclaimer.
Come try Calabria Brick Oven Pizzeria. Their pizza is cooked to perfection, but that's not all they're known for. Try one of their delicious appetizers, salads, fresh calzones, and they have a full bar and dessert. Calabria has been a Mount Juliet staple for 7 years now and has a new location in the heart of Goodlettsville off Long Hollow Pike. Come join the family at Calabria. After all, life's too short to eat bad pizza.
This year, Boys and Girls Club of Middle Tennessee celebrates its 120th anniversary. Through time, BGCMT continues to evolve to enable all young people, especially those who need us most, to reach their full potential as productive, caring, and responsible leaders. Because of your continued support, BGCMT has remained strong and is committed to supporting our youth and solidifying our mission and culture in new exciting ways for 120 years. Visit bgcmt.org today.
He knows Nashville sports.
I love Clark Lee. He is a brilliant dude.
And he's not scared to tell it like it is.
They were atrocious on defense a year ago.
He is Outkick's Chad Withrow.
We really don't care. You're here. You signed a grant of rights.
Withrow joins Stillman and Company every Friday at 5. Brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.
I know they were doing that for him to be the third-string quarterback in year one.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, this is Jordan Rogers, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 The Game.
That was a lot of fun. We were efficient, and then that was opening up some things down the field for us. So whenever you're able to hit on these plays that you've been working on in practice, been thinking about dialing it up, you get to open up the playbook a little bit. Timmy did a great job calling the game and having a good feel for when to dial those things up. So, it's a good thing for the Titans when they're able to dial those things up.
Yeah, it's Ryan Tannehill. I'm glad to hear Ryan Tannehill tell us what's good for the Titans. That's Ryan Tannehill talking about, hey, Tim Kelly called a great game on Sunday, which he did. He called a great game. Now, we'll get to Vrabel and Vrabel's lack of praise for the coaching staff. We'll get to that in a second, which just, ridiculous. But I pulled up the numbers of Tim Kelly, Arthur Smith with Mariota for his first 4 games, and Todd Downing for his first 4 games. Now, we need to keep in mind that there are a lot of, extenuating circumstances when it comes to totaling these up, right? Like, for instance, I don't know the quality of the defenses that Todd Downing played in his first 4 games as compared to the quality of the defenses that Tim Kelly played in his first 4 games. Or Arthur Smith and Todd Downing both had A.J. Brown on their football team in their first 4 games, and Tim Kelly, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, does not have A.J. Brown. But I was a little surprised. Tim Kelly, 18 points a game, 169 passing yards a game, which is not good enough, and 111 rushing yards per game, 57 first downs. So again, Kelly, 18 points a game, 57 first downs, and again, we'll compare this. Arthur Smith, 22.75 points a game, so basically 23 points a game. So that's better than Tim Kelly's 18. 202 passing yards a game, better than the 169. And remember, this is with Mariota, not Tannehill. And 119 rushing yards a game compared to the 111. And they had 82 first downs compared to Tim Kelly's 57. Todd Downing, meanwhile, had 23.75 points a game, or 24 points a game, 230 yards passing in his first 4 games, 163 yards rushing per game, and 104 first downs through the first 4 games. So if we want to just take Arthur Smith out of this, and we just want to say, okay, Todd Downing over here, Tim Kelly over here, through their first 4 games, Todd Downing's team averages 6 more points, about double the passing yards from 170 to 230, and from 111 rushing yards to 163, and double the first downs, 57 for Kelly, 104 for Downing. Now, what does that really tell us? Well, it either tells us that there are a lot of extenuating circumstances here that make it completely uncomparable, right? Incomparable. Make it incredibly incomparable. The idea that, hey, you had to play the Cleveland Browns in these first 4 games, and they may have a top 2, top 3 defense in the NFL. And I don't know the defenses that Todd Downing had to play in those first 4 games, but maybe they weren't as good. Or that 4 games is way too small of a sample size to judge an offensive coordinator. Now, the other thing, too, the caliber of players that Tim Kelly had, in the first 4 games compared to the caliber of players Todd Downing had. I mean, Todd Downing had Roger Saffold and Ben Jones and and A.J. Brown and Julio Jones, and, they had more players. They had better players as compared to what the Titans have right here. But it was astounding. For some reason, because I think Tim Kelly is a better offensive coordinator than Todd Downing, for some reason, I thought that either the numbers were going to be incredibly similar or that Tim Kelly's numbers were actually going to be better. The thing that throws a huge wrench into this is the fact that you scored 3 points against Cleveland. And you threw for 85 yards and you ran for 25 yards or something like that. But these games still, they count. So I was a little surprised by that. But again, like I said, maybe it just tells us that 4 games is probably not a big enough sample size. I think Tim Kelly's doing a good job. But I don't think he's doing a great job yet, because as impressed as I was with his performance against Cincinnati, and he called a great game, and he schemed up a great game, and everything, as impressed as I was on Sunday, I think about how incompetent the play calling was and the offensive scheme going up against the Browns was the week before. Now, there wasn't a single call or scheme that he could have come up with against the Cleveland front on the road that would have produced mass results. And that's why I stick the onus of the bad game plan with Vrabel from the Cleveland game, because this had to be a complimentary football type game of, hey, we're going to run the ball and punt it, and the defense has to really win this game for us. And the Titans didn't walk into Cleveland with that approach. The Titans walked into Cleveland with a, we're going to play our game mentality, and it got thrown back in their face. But it's so frustrating to have, on one hand, a guy call a fabulous game and a guy scheme up a great offense. And the previous week against the Browns, they look totally lost, and they're trying to, they're trying to line Tannehill up in the shotgun with Myles Garrett singled up on Andre Dillard, and they end up not getting any points before the half. And then you flash forward to the next week, and you see the Titans out there on the football field, and they're playing against the Bengals, who have, not the same defensive front the Browns do, but a pretty good one. And they're doing the opposite. Like, they've got every time that they throw, they're trying to throw the ball. Every time they try to throw the ball outside the numbers, they had 6 offensive linemen because one of the tight ends was acting like an offensive lineman. It is funny to me, and I love Derek with all my heart. I do. He's probably listening right now on his way home. But I said on the pregame show, I'm like, you got to do something. Well, it's easier said than done to help out the tackles, and it's not in this game. In this game, they had help for the tackles, with which I'm okay with. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Cedric is up next here on the program. Thank you for waiting. Go ahead, Cedric.
Hey, Jared, I got a question for you, man, as far as ratings go. Do you get credit for ratings if we watch on YouTube? Because sometimes, man, I can't listen during the day, but I go home, man, and I get me a nice cigar, and I'll watch you on YouTube in the evening. So do you get credit for that or no?
Well, I honestly, I don't know the specifics of it. I don't think I do, but it's not – I don't want to sit there and say don't worry about it, but don't worry about it. We'll be okay.
All right, man. Well, I was just curious. All right, now, Tim Kelly. As long as Tim Kelly's offenses keep producing 27 points a game at home, bro, I'm good, man. I love the way he goes about calling the games. There's more creativity. It's more fun to watch. He had us right in the game in New Orleans. And, we got to take account. Burks is dropping a lot of balls that A.J. did not drop for the other two guys. So I love Tim Kelly. I love what he's got going on. And listen, man, that bum that we had before, did he have a better left tackle than what my man has right now? Because Dillard is getting worked every Sunday, bro.
Although
Sunday.
in Todd Downing's defense, the first 4 games, Lawan got worked that first Sunday against Chandler Jones, and then Ty Sambrilo played left tackle for that second game against the Seahawks.
Jay, don't let that get in the way of my story, man.
I'm just telling you, I mean, as much as we want to see, I mean, I think the big thing with all of this is A.J. Brown. You know what I mean? Like, thank you for your call, Cedric. I think that's kind of the issue. Like, the big issue here with there is an A.J. Brown issue that I've tried to avoid it because I was in favor of the trade when it happened. And I hate being the guy that is like, how stupid could you be to make that trade? That was such a bad trade. When I was the one who was, I was for it. Joe was vehemently against it when they made the trade. Joe was right. Like Joe and Buck and everybody else that just thought the Titans were out of their freaking minds. I mean, they were right. And people like me that liked the trade, we were wrong. And I think, where we were wrong is, I think it's twofold. One, AJ just gets better. I mean, did you see what AJ did on Sunday to the Commanders? I mean, he single-handedly won that game for them.
He had a big game.
He single-handedly won the game. And Burks ain't that dude, man. Like, he's just not. I mean, I know he's got talent, and everybody I talked to connected with the Titans that knows Treylon Burks says he is a stand-up guy, that he is a hard worker, that he dedicates himself to the team, that everything you could want Treylon Burks is, but he's just not AJ. And at this point, the second year, and here he is having a problem catching the football, and again, staying healthy, and he's just not going to be that guy. And so when it comes to, this is what Downing did, and this is what this one did, but this is the one, the overarching kind of the missing piece here is that we don't have A.J. Brown. Now, I do believe A.J. got hurt early in Downing's tenure. Now, because A.J., that fourth game, A.J. didn't play. I want to say A.J. got hurt against the Indianapolis Colts in Todd Downing's third game. So these Downing stats may be without, really having that stability at left tackle in Lewan, and maybe without having A.J. Brown. And they still threw for 230 yards a game passing as compared with the 169 passing that they have through the first 4 games. But again, it's a small sample size. Texter says it's truly one of those cases where stats don't tell the story. Watching the first 4 Downing games had me screaming, where's the play action? TD asked Downing at his first presser why he dropped play action, and he said they weren't getting the looks that they wanted. I don't remember that when it came to Todd Downing. Texter said, take it at face value. Downing had better numbers. Kelly's at least dialing up big shots. I love that Kelly's got the smaller numbers in comparison because the eye test says otherwise. The offense will play better down the stretch number-wise. Now, Downing did take shots down the field early on. Remember that Seattle game, that second Seattle game, Julio, was kind of the go-to guy, and they hit some shots down the field. And then I want to say they beat the Colts in that third game kind of the same way that the Titans won on Sunday, which was it was a lot of Nick Westbrook-Akine and Chester Rogers and those guys that were playing wide receiver as opposed to Julio Jones and A.J. Brown. But my guess is that once the book got out on how Downing was going to use these guys, the league caught up pretty quickly. Because there's no doubt in my mind that Todd Downing did not have a clue when it came to running this offense. One texter says Burks is Corey Davis. I thought the same thing. Where I like John Robinson. You guys know that. I think John Robinson did a good job. But the idea of, I'll just trade AJ and draft the next AJ. It's like, dude, you did use the 5th overall pick on Corey Davis. Like, are you sure? Like, you're that sure that this guy's going to be A.J. Brown? And, I mean, A.J., they put, and I didn't watch the Commanders and Philly until, like, overtime after I was done with the Titans game. But I think A.J. had, like, 60 pounds on the corner that Washington put out there on him. Emmanuel Forbes is 160 pounds and AJ's 225. And AJ just big boyed him the whole game. And so the Titans are, they got to get over the A.J. Brown problem. 615-737-1025 is the phone number, 615-737-1025. One texter says, AJ almost lost the game for Philadelphia because he got called for taunting after his touchdown, which gave Washington better field position. I got to tell you, I was disappointed. Not in AJ. In Ron Rivera not going for 2 at the end of regulation. And his explanation was that the offense was gassed. Well, if the offense is gassed, what is Philadelphia's defense doing right there? It's like, what happened to Riverboat Ron? Terrible. 615-737-1025 is the phone number, 615-737-1025. So Mike Vrabel is hellbent on not giving credit to Tim Kelly. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, 615-737-1025. Be sure to join Robbie, who's in for me, Chris Sanders and D. Mace at Twin Peaks in Madison this Sunday from 9:30 to 11:30 for the award-winning pregame show. That's right. They'll be breaking down the Week 5 matchup of the Titans and the Colts. And the pregame show, the award-winning pregame show, is presented by Parman Tractor and Equipment and The Beast Unleashed.
Vanderbilt football lives here.
This Saturday, it's Vanderbilt and Florida from Gainesville. Kickoff at 3 p.m. Coverage starts at 1:30.
Your home for the Commodores is 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville invites you to support Breast Cancer Awareness Month by donating to Breast Cancer in Action. BRA's mission is to empower breast cancer survivors physically and emotionally by creating inclusive communities where all can grow in strength, resilience, and joy. Find it in your heart to donate by going to info@bragroups.org. Pella Windows and Doors would also like to thank their sponsors of their Putt for Pink Customer Appreciation event: Binks Lodge, the Nashville Predators, Apio Media, Little House Animal Hospital, Mid-10 Ford, and 102.5 The Game.
The Nashville Oktoberfest is quickly approaching, and now's the time to get your dirndls, lederhosen, and party steins ready. From local breweries to live music and festival artisans, you can't go wrong celebrating this free family fun Germantown tradition. The Nashville Oktoberfest 2023, Thursday, October 5th through the 8th at Bicentennial Mall in Germantown. Prepare yourself for 4 days of brats, beer, live music, and competitions. VIP experience reservations are still available at thenashvilleoktoberfest.com. Prost, y'all!
This week's Nashville's best deal is 312 Pizza Company, serving the best pizza in town, as well as Chicago-style eats like Chicago dogs, Italian beef sandwiches, and more. It's also a great spot to grab a beer and watch your favorite team on the big screen. 312 Pizza Company, 371 Monroe Street in Germantown. Head to thegamenashville.com/deals and get half off a $30 gift card. It's 312 Pizza Company, while supplies last.
The Game text line is driven by Wilson County Hyundai. Online at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. Be a part of the conversation. Call or text the Game at 615-737-1025.
When it comes to shopping for home and auto insurance, the companies that usually come to mind can only offer one coverage option. So, if you want to compare prices, you're forced to visit multiple websites just to get one quote at a time. But not with Zander Insurance. Zander is a broker that works for you, shopping dozens of top-rated companies to find you the best rates this year and every year so your price stays competitive, keeping your life simple and hassle-free. Compare rates all in one place at Zander.com, or for a more personal touch, call 800-356-1780.
They combine hard-hitting journalism.
The Titans asked Kevin Byard to take a pay cut.
Strong-willed opinions.
There's hot takes and then there's like weird takes. Yeah. This is a weird take.
And sometimes some old man takes.
I'm excited about it. So do I gyrate embarrassingly?
To create the perfect morning show, they are Robbie and Rex Road. Mornings from 6 to 9. Presented by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
With the play calling, it seemed like Tim Kelly was in a groove. How do you like the way he layered his calls and dialed the right thing?
I think all the credit goes to the players. It does. And I mean, we make all this up about play callers. I mean, give them a play and they go execute it. It's up to the players. And they did a great job. That's what I'm saying.
You know, that was Vrabel after the game, right? So how'd you think Tim Kelly did layering his play calls? It's all about the players. It's all about the players. And I'm like, okay, I get it. Vrabel always wants to, I've seen Belichick win the AFC, and they give him that, little AFC trophy, and he's like, yeah, this is about the players. And I've seen Saban when they win the national championship, and Saban's like, this is all about the players, and I'm so proud of the players. And so I get that. I understand. But you can give credit to Tim Kelly where credit is due. And Paul kind of asked a question yesterday around the lines of, well, how much does scheming and play calling help the players be successful? And Vrabel went on this kind of long word salad non-answer and finally clearly just got fed up with it. And again, Vrabel points out that the play calling is really not that important.
I think there's good plays that don't work, and I think there's bad plays that work. I don't know what to tell you. There's, it's just the whole guru mentality. I think that it gets executed. Whether you think it's a good call or a bad call, you'll know by why the players execute it.
Okay, I get it. The whole guru mentality, sometimes it's a little too much for me. But it's not an accident that Kyle Shanahan made Matt Ryan league MVP. And then Kyle Shanahan left, and Matt Ryan went back to being what Matt Ryan was for his entire career. And Kyle's offense, with anybody at quarterback, ends up in the NFC Championship game. Hell, I could be the quarterback of the 49ers, and we'd end up in the NFC Championship game. And I'm not knocking Purdy when I say this, but I bet you Sam Darnold, who is widely regarded as a bust because New York took him 3rd overall, and then they dumped him on Carolina. And I actually thought he played pretty well for Carolina, and I told him that at the Super Bowl this year, that I was like, hey, man, you played your butt off in Carolina, but there was no starting job out there for Sam Darnold. And he goes, if Sam Darnold were the starting quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers, I still think the San Francisco 49ers are one of the 3 best teams in the NFC with Philadelphia and Dallas because of Shanahan. So why did Vrabel have a giant rod up his butt about, giving Tim Kelly credit? Why can't he say Tim did a good job against the Bengals calling the plays? And you'd have to ask Vrabel what his reasoning for that is, but he cannot give Tim Kelly the credit and say, hey, Tim did a great job. Tannehill's saying Tim did a great job. What are we doing? Let's go to Chris, who's up next and has been waiting patiently on A.J. Brown. Thank you for calling. What's up, Chris?
What's up, buddy? How are you?
Good. Go ahead.
First thing I want to say, besides the A.J. thing, is I want to give you some crap for the 53-yard kick by Nick Folk. I know you love it when people talk about it because you talk about it a lot. But, I want to give you a little crap. Is that okay?
That's fine. I said yesterday on the program, he's proven us wrong on this show. And I say us, Ian wasn't against it. He's proven me wrong on this show. And, I want to knock on wood that he keeps making those kicks. And hopefully I watched the Colts play the Rams. This Brett Maher, who used to kick for the Cowboys, he's horrible. And it's like, I'm glad I got Nick Folk when I'm watching him kick. All right, get to your AJ point.
Okay, well, the kid's AJ point. All right. So, do you think AJ would have caught that ball that Tannehill threw on the flea flicker? Do you think he would have caught that ball?
I think DeAndre should have caught that ball. So I don't, would AJ have caught it? AJ dropped the ball plenty when he was a Titan. And I don't know how much AJ's dropped the ball as an Eagle because I don't watch all of their games. Thank you, Chris. Because I don't watch all of their games. But AJ dropped the ball plenty. There was a Thursday night game against Indianapolis here in 2020, and Ryan Tannehill had a touchdown right into the hands of A.J. Brown, and it went right through in the first quarter. So to act as if, A.J. could do no wrong is not true. But when it comes back to the whole, do you think A.J. would have caught that? I thought DeAndre was supposed to catch that. I'm sitting there at the game, and I see the throw, and I see DeAndre kind of stretch out for it, and I see it hit the top of his hands, and I'm like, DeAndre! Like, that's why they pay you $12 million is to catch that ball. Like, that's supposed to, and then I watched the replay, and DeAndre, I don't know what happened, but it's like DeAndre felt the goal line. And I don't know how this new turf feels. I've never been on it before. But maybe you can feel the lines, and I don't know. Because it's like DeAndre felt the goal line and then stumbled for like a half millisecond, and that was just enough for him to miss it. And people are like, oh, Tannehill overthrew him. I mean, come on now. Tannehill is throwing to a spot. And, I mean, it was open, and it was there, and I thought DeAndre should have caught the ball. One texter says, I think Vrabel doesn't give Kelly credit when he does well because he does not want to criticize him in front of the media when he calls a poor game. See, now I think there's some truth to that. I think what this is if Vrabel starts to laud his play caller, if he starts to, heap praise on Tim Kelly, then when things go poorly, people are going to go back to the same well of, well, hey, what about Tim Kelly? And then Vrabel will say, oh, well, it's the players who are screwing up. And I don't think that's a position that he wants to be in. And what about, last year with Todd Downing? And what's crazy? Diana Russini said this. I don't know if she reported this on ESPN and we played the cut, or if she wrote it or tweeted it, or I don't know. But Diana Russini, who we think, direct line of communicate with Vrabel, Diana Russini said that she was shocked when Todd Downing got fired. And I'm like, I think that Vrabel actually thinks that Downing was a good coordinator. As much as we all know that he wasn't, I think that he probably thought that. And so he's not going to want to get into the whole game of, Downing and Kelly and this play caller did that and this one did. My guess is that Vrabel doesn't want to publicly pump up the coaches because he can use that opportunity to publicly pump up the players, and then behind the scenes, he's probably smacking the coaches on the butt the whole time. My guess is that instead of, hey, I've seen bad play calls and good players make good plays, and I've seen good play calls and bad. Instead of that, I think Vrabel's sitting there thinking, we owned them on Sunday. But he probably doesn't want to say that. One texter says, John Robinson deserved to get fired for nothing more than letting A.J. go and attempting to replace him with Burks. It must have gotten personal between J-Rob and A.J. and his agent, which is unacceptable. So, I mean, look, everybody was in the loop on the A.J. trade. But when I was on vacation last year when this came out, but A.J. did a podcast with Darren Bates. And A.J. basically said that the Titans weren't offering any real money to A.J., which is along the lines of what he told TD the day after he got traded, and TD reported on, which the Titans immediately refuted. Or TD sources immediately refuted, which I assume is the Titans if there's two people in the negotiation, and A.J.'s the one on record. I do believe that Tory Dandy, the agent for A.J. Brown, this is just my opinion, just piecing the context clues together. The agent for A.J. Brown, Tory Dandy, I believe gamed the system because he had gotten $20 million for Mike Williams. He had gotten $20 million for Godwin in Tampa Bay, and he was supposed to be the wide receiver agent, and he was trying to get a new deal for Deebo Samuel, and San Francisco wouldn't budge, and so Deebo was requesting a trade, and so I think this is just me. I think Tory Dandy lied to AJ, and AJ went crazy. And instead of, and the one that got me was because when AJ said something to Darren Bates along the lines of his agent told him to cut off conversations with the Titans, which I think is kind of the way of saying, like, hey, if I'm going to lie to you, the last thing I want you to do is I want you to talk to them, because then you'll talk to them and you'll be like, well, wait a minute, that's not what my agent told me. But ultimately, John Robinson did have the trump card there of just saying, okay, fine, we're just going to do it our way. And we're just going to tag you, and you will show up for camp. Kind of the way that San Francisco ended up doing with Deebo Samuel. But No use in crying over spilt milk. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. I'm ready to make a declaration on behalf of you, the Titan fans. We'll get to that coming up next. Here on Stillman and Company, again, 615-737-1025 is our phone number. And be sure to join us on Thursday, because DraftKings Sports and Social will be the most epic sports watching experience in town, and they are opening downtown on 2nd Avenue this Thursday, and Stillman and Company will be live at DraftKings Sports and Social from 2 to 6. DraftKings Sports and Social features a massive state-of-the-art 33-foot LED screen and their world-famous menus and signature curated cocktails. That's this Thursday, the grand opening of the DraftKings Sports and Social downtown on 2nd Avenue.
Are you always on the go? We've got you covered. Download the Game Nashville app from your app store and listen to us wherever you are.
Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexroad.
It's Chase McKay.
Caroline, Willie, D-Mays.
Stillman Company.
We are Nashville's best sports talk.
Good station.
I listen to it all the time.
102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Twin Peaks is the best in the game. Here, you're in the red zone for every college rivalry and divisional matchup all season long. On game day, you never have to decide which teams to watch, only what combination of bites, burgers, wings, and more to order. Plus, where else are your favorite draft beers always poured at a frozen 29 degrees? Only at Twin Peaks, the #1 sports bar.
Stick around after the sun sets. Twin Peaks is open really late. Wind down with bourbon and late-night bites. Only at Twin Peaks.
Are you drowning in credit card debt? Want to get cash out of your home's equity? Loan Pronto can do it now in less than a week. Hey, Willie Donick here. That's right. Loan Pronto's Equity Express line of credit just got even faster. You can get $50,000, $100,000, even $200,000 in as little as 5 days. You don't even have to touch your primary mortgage. You can keep that 3% rate intact. Get just the money you need and pay off all those credit cards or get that home improvement project started. With this revolutionary program, you can access up to 90% of your home's value, and in most cases, there's no appraisal. Stop paying insane interest rates to the credit card companies and get tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash in as little as 5 days. Call Loan Pronto now for the even faster Equity Express line. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. 615-499-5780. Equal Housing Lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
Now, your Game Center update.
After the big win over the Cincinnati Bengals on Sunday, the Tennessee Titans will look to turn the page as they take on the Indianapolis Colts this weekend. Titans head coach Mike Vrabel spoke yesterday about how they can try and carry that momentum into this week.
I think you can show them what everybody's capable of when we all do our job and we get going. And I think a lot of that is attributed to what you do in practice. Just the understanding of the looks you saw in practice and the ones that you don't see. Can't show them everything, right? There's going to be some things that you're not going to be able to see in practice, but just having an understanding enough of the play to be able to execute it off of a look that you haven't seen, or being instinctive enough to be able to execute it.
The team announced yesterday that they have designated wide receiver Kyle Phillips to return from injured reserve, opening up his window to practice. Titans versus Colts is set for noon on Sunday. And the Major League Baseball playoffs have begun with Texas and Tampa Bay underway in the early game, followed by Toronto and Minnesota, Arizona versus Milwaukee, and Miami versus Philly. From the Game Nashville studios, this is Ian Safar.
Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Broadcasting on Alexa.
I appreciate that.
And other smart speakers. 102.5 and 106.3.
And a score!
You can run different offenses.
The doors on the board.
Off the field, on the field.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Where you have a voice.
He had a competent coaching staff.
You just play terrible and you keep playing.
And we have strong opinions.
What a whiny freaking crybaby response.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. TD, by the way, gives us some clarity as to DeAndre Hopkins dropping that touchdown pass. TD said it had nothing to do with the goal line of the turf. Hopkins lost it in the sun. He stumbled as he was trying to track the ball. That exact corner is one of the worst spots he's seen in the NFL as far as looking directly into the sun.
I actually heard Robbie and Joe talking about that, I think, yesterday morning.
I'll say this about that sun on Sunday. I was baking like a chicken in the oven on Sunday in that sun. That was a brutal sun. If you ever played high school baseball here, Montgomery Bell Academy, the sun sets right over home plate if you're in right field. And I'll never forget my senior year of high school. They hit a ball up there, and it went right up into that sun, and I just put my arms out like, I got no idea where that ball is. I mean, there is nothing. So that, that makes sense. So I appreciate TD for the added context. So I'm about to declare something for Titan fans out there that I feel like there's going to be some pushback on, but there shouldn't be. And the declaration that I've decided that I'm asking you all as a representative, right? Like I'm one of 7 people in town that have a radio show. And so I feel like, hey, you're the constituents and I'm the representative here. And I am voting to officially declare that the Titans are fine right now with Ryan Tannehill at quarterback and Derrick Henry at running back. Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry aren't too old. They're not falling apart. They're not injury prone. Tannehill's arm is not gone. Derrick Henry's ability to break a big run still exists. They're the same guys that they have been the duration that they've been together. Like they are the same guys that they have been the whole time. Now, look, Derrick Henry's probably a step slower than he was in 2019 because he was 24 years old then, and now he's 29 years old. But for the most part, the Derrick Henry you love is the same Derrick Henry. The Ryan Tannehill you love is the same Ryan Tannehill, or I should say the Ryan Tannehill that you tolerate. The issues with the Titans have always been about what is around Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry. Like, it's amazing what happens when the offensive coordinator says, instead of having the best defensive lineman in the NFL singled up against our left tackle, we're going to bring in extra bodies in order to help the offensive line. So Derrick Henry can get going on the running game. Or the offensive coordinator decides, we're going to utilize play action, and we're going to take some deep shots. And we're going to take Chris Moore, a guy who can run down the field, and we're going to take those deep shots. And then what happens when they do? It's amazing to me what happens when the wide receivers catch the ball. At Cleveland, Treylon Burks dropped 2, Chigakonkwo dropped 1. I believe all 3 would have been first downs. Burks dropped a first down at New Orleans. Guess how many drops the Titans had on Sunday? 0 outside of DeAndre's touchdown. And think about what it would have been if DeAndre had caught that touchdown. Because that drive you settled for a field goal. Every other drive, until the 10-minute drive at the beginning of the third quarter, every other drive was a touchdown. That wasn't Tannehill's fault. Now, Tannehill did have some bad throws on Sunday. I mean, there were a couple in the notes that when I was writing it down, I said, well, that was a bad throw. There was one on the sidelines for Chris Moore where after Tannehill threw it, I saw this at the gate, Tannehill kind of put his arm up like either he wanted Moore to be further out into the pattern or he threw his arm up like, oh, my bad, I screwed that up. And I don't know what he was communicating when, he put his arm up there. And, was he taking the blame or was he mad at the other guy? And as is the case with everybody surrounding the Titans, they will never tell you what that was. But Tannehill's been fine. Henry has been fine. It's Tannehill and Henry, the same Tannehill and the same Henry. And all I hear all off season from people is, oh, Derrick Henry's old, or oh, he's going to break down, or oh, nobody wants it. Tannehill's 35 years old. He's coming off of an injury. He's not. They're fine. Now, I hear people, texting this show and texting the morning show and saying, do you think that they should sign them to extensions? No. They're fine with what they have right now. Not that there's any other real option, because they're not going to make Malik Willis the quarterback, and they're not going to hand the ball to Tajay Spears 28 times a game. But again, when there is just adequate blocking for Derrick Henry against a team that doesn't have an all-star front like the Cleveland Browns do, Derrick Henry looked like Derrick Henry on Sunday. And outside of the Saints game, with Ryan Tannehill, where he had some bad throws in that Saints game, where I think he was rattled early by the protection and he was shaking off the rust, Tannehill has been pretty accurate this season throwing the football. Even in the Cleveland game, Tannehill was pretty accurate throwing the ball. So, again, everybody is entitled to their opinion when it comes to the Titans. I just want to feel like I am comfortably speaking for the masses here when I say that we can all sit in agreement and say, you're fine with Tannehill and Henry as your quarterback and your running back right now. Because the second you lose another game, and you might lose on Sunday, but the second you lose another game, there will be another article up at ESPN.com that will say something along the lines of, is it time to go to Will Levis? And who knows? Where that's coming from in people's brains, but it's not coming from people who are watching the Titans play. Left tackle, kind of an issue. Left guard, until Skoronski gets back, issue. Center, the guy's too small, issue. Right guard, he's fine. Right tackle, not an issue, but I think there's a discussion to be had of, do you bring in last year's right tackle or do you keep the guy who's been playing right tackle right now? Wide receiver, right now I'm kind of liking what they got out there. That should be okay. But quarterback's not a problem on this team, and running back is not a problem on this team. And I know that somebody's going to text into the text line or call into the show and say, yeah, Jared, but can Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry win us a Super Bowl? And I'm like, that's not what I'm talking about right now. I'm saying where you sit. You're fine with Tannehill at quarterback. You're fine with Henry at running back. How many quarterbacks in the NFL are capable of winning the Super Bowl? How many teams can we say, hey, you can win the Super Bowl right now with that guy? And I'll give you an example of a name. Justin Herbert. I have no idea if Justin Herbert can win a Super Bowl. I think Justin Herbert can win a Super Bowl. I think he's got the talent to be able to win a Super Bowl, but I don't know. But outside of, Mahomes, Burrow when he's right, because Burrow is absolutely not right now, but Burrow when he's right, Josh Allen, every single one of these quarterbacks has some kind of an issue about, can you really win a Super Bowl with that guy? Can you win a Super Bowl with Deshaun Watson or Dak Prescott? Can you win a Super Bowl with Trevor Lawrence? Oh, Trevor Lawrence is throwing for 200 yards a game right now. They won the game on Sunday with 300 yards of total offense. Can you really win a Super Bowl with Trevor Lawrence? So, again, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but I just want us to be on the same page. We're fine with Tannehill and Henry right now, right? Everybody's fine with those two guys doing what they're doing. We'll get to your phones on this. 615-737-1025. If you want to weigh in, 615-737-1025. Stillman and Company, 1025-1063, the game.
Coming on in for Fergie. Hey, it's Pete Weber. Thursday night, join Jay Moore and me as the Predators take on the Hurricanes as the preseason continues. Our coverage begins at 6.
Your home for Smashville is 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
It's time to celebrate this fall and unleash the beast. Monster Brewing proudly presents to you Beast Unleashed. 0 caffeine, 0 sugar, all the adult beverage fun. The Beast is unleashed with great taste, bold familiar flavors, and 6% alcohol. Go wild with Mean Green, White Haze, Peach Perfect, and Scary Berries. Don't fear the Beast. Enjoy Beast Unleashed at your next tailgate or football party. Drink responsibly. Must be 21 and over.
Fall is the time for family, friends, and unforgettable moments. Lee Company wants you to savor every second. While you enjoy this time with your family, our professional technicians can handle everything else, from gutter cleaning to pressure washing to painting to new gas log installations. We've been serving homeowners in this area for almost 80 years. Visit leecompany.com to learn more. That's leecompany.com. Lee Company, all you need.
20 years ago, when Genesis Diamonds came to Nashville, this was one of the most expensive cities in America for diamond jewelry. Our radical approach and no middleman pricing changed that forever. And now we're doing it again, this time with lab-grown diamonds. We were shocked to find out what the other mall stores and the other big radio advertisers were charging. For example, they sell their platinum 4-carat VS2 lab-grown earrings for $13,480. Ours are 40% less with better diamonds. Their 5-carat lab-grown diamond earrings are $17,950. Ours are half that price with better quality, 50% less at Genesis. Looks like they might be going back to the old ways. If they're charging this much on lab-grown diamonds, kind of makes you wonder what else they're selling at the same outrageous markup. Nashville, we are not going backwards. At Genesis Diamonds, our non-commissioned trusted advisors are here to give you all the information with details you can trust and prices you can count on. Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Actor Portrayal, based on a real patient experience.
I'm Mike. I'm a husband, proud father of 2, work my butt off 6 days a week, some nights too. When my family or my company needs me to make it happen, I make it happen. But a few months ago, I started having trouble making it happen, in the bedroom. I tried some pills online, but they didn't work. Honestly, I thought about throwing in the towel on my sex life, but I'm not that old. I still want to enjoy intimacy with my wife. Like that poet said, I don't want to just go gently into that good night. So I went to the Tennessee Men's Clinic in Franklin. Got some lab work done, was prescribed some meds, and wow, it made it happen. I can't say enough about them. Their providers took care of me, followed up, and made sure I had a treatment plan that actually works. It's awesome. If I were you, and you're like me, I'd give them a call today, 615-208-9090, or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. If you're like most guys, they'll make it happen for you too.
Visit our website to learn more, including side effects, treatments extra. Results vary.
The Electronic Express 40th Anniversary Sale is going on now. Help us celebrate 40 years of service and save up to 40% throughout the entire store. This week, get a Hisense 65-inch 4K TV for only $399, or a stainless steel refrigerator only $499. Plus, get up to 60 months special financing on items like a top-load laundry pair, only $349 each, or an LG touchscreen laptop, just $799. Shop our 40th Anniversary Sale. Electronic Express. We make it happen.
Anyone want to tell me what happened? Did you miss any of today's show?
It's okay. It's fine. Don't worry.
Subscribe to the Stillman and Company podcast on Apple, Spotify, and other podcast platforms, or by going to thegamenashville.com.
All right, I'll give it a shot.
Strong opinions and a strong personality on your drive home. This is Stillman and Company on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
I'm not wondering anything. I believe in that locker room. I believe in the guys. I believe in what we have and what we're building. So proud of the way we came to work throughout this week, prepared ourselves, and look forward to doing the same thing next week.
There you go, Tannehill. He's kind of popping his collar a little bit. You had the Tannehill after the Saints game that Wednesday that was like, I don't want to talk anymore about the Saints game. I only want to talk about the Charger game. And then Tannehill had that great game against the Chargers. And I think Tannehill actually played well against the Browns, but it would have been impossible for him to do anything more than he did in that game. And then Tannehill was great on Sunday, and so now Tannehill, he's kind of feeling himself a little bit. He's got that confidence back that old Todd Downing took away from him. Let's go to your phones. And again, what I'm saying is this. We're all in agreement, right? Tannehill and Henry, they're fine at quarterback, and they're fine at running back with Tannehill and Henry, and we don't need to worry about them, and we don't need to take away snaps from them, and we don't need to think about benching them, and we don't need to talk about replacing them, and we don't need to worry about anything to do with this season at those positions unless one of them gets hurt. Everybody agree? Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Brian is up next on Tannehill and Henry. Thank you for waiting. Go ahead, Brian.
Hey, what's going on, Jared?
Go ahead, man.
Hey, Derek is fine. Derek is not the issue. The issue is Tannehill. He's choked every time we've given him the ball in tight positions. AFC Championship, he blew it. The first round of the playoffs, he was number 1 seed. He blew it. Derek is fine. I don't have no problem with Derek. You're halfway right. Tannehill.
So does Derek's 60-yard performance in that Ravens playoff game in 2020, does that not count for something?
Derek got us there. Derek won the game.
Okay, does Tannehill's performance in the Ravens game where he threw the touchdowns to Jonnu Smith and Khalif Raymond to give you a 14-0 lead, does that not count for something?
Yeah, that counts for something. He did his job as a quarterback.
So you're just mad that he couldn't go out there and outgun Patrick Mahomes in the AFC Championship game?
Not only could he not do that, when we had the number 1 seed to go to the AFC Championship,
well, I'm mad about that,
too,
for sure.
He blew it. He every time there's a high-pressure situation, he lets us down every time.
Well, I don't think that that's completely fair. I hear what you're saying. Thank you, Brian. I think you're kind of there. And I'm kind of in agreement with you when it comes to Tannehill. Now, I think the difference between me this year and me last year is that after the Cincinnati playoff game, I thought the Titans had a roster that was capable of competing for the Super Bowl. I no longer feel that way right now. I think the Titans have a roster that's capable of making it to the playoffs. And then if everything absolutely goes right, then they could find themselves in an AFC Championship game or a Super Bowl or something like that. But I'm not thinking like if I'm San Francisco, I'm thinking I have a roster that's capable of competing for the Super Bowl. If I'm Dallas, I think I have a roster that's capable of competing for the Super Bowl. If I'm Buffalo, if I'm Kansas City, I think I've got rosters that are capable of competing for the I don't think the Titans have that. Now, we can't just dismiss the good things that Tannehill did and only bring up the times where Tannehill lost, right? Like, again, I never blamed Tannehill for the AFC Championship game in Kansas City. I thought Vrabel got outcoached in the second half when Andy Reid took the air out of the ball, and I think that the Titans' defense with Tremaine Brock Sr. and the remains of Logan Ryan at corner could not keep up with Tyreek Hill and Sammy Watkins and that crew. So I don't blame Tannehill for that. The Cincinnati game, yes, I blame Tannehill for that. The Ravens playoff game the year before, I blame Tannehill for that. But again, we're not talking about, hey, do you have a quarterback that's as good as Patrick Mahomes? Because the answer is unequivocally no. I don't think Derek Carr can win the Super Bowl. And I mean, how many teams across the league have quarterbacks that you would say, if you were only looking at through the lens of can this guy win the Super Bowl for you, how many teams would you say, no? Like Josh Dobbs, no. Geno Smith, no. Kirk Cousins, no. Justin Fields, no. Jordan Love, no. Jared Goff, no. Desmond Ridder, no. Baker Mayfield, no. You see what I'm getting at? It's easy to look at the guys that are really, really good and say, man, I wish that my team had that guy. I've been thinking that for forever. I mean, I'm sitting here praying that Will Levis is that dude. That Will Levis becomes that guy. The next great one. I'm not expecting it, but I am hoping for it. But, Tannehill's not going to be that guy. You know that. I know that. Tannehill knows that. We all know that. One texter in the text line keeps asking about Will Levis and why Will Levis is inactive, saying, why is everyone whistling past the graveyard on Will Levis? What's the real story? Why is he inactive? And, I mean, I don't think it's that Levis is bad or not good enough or I don't – personally, I have no opinion on where things stand with Will Levis as the potential successor to Tannehill at quarterback. And I am just – I've accepted the fact that, A, they're not going to tell you, and B, whatever they see in practice every week, they're not going to report back to us about what their long-term plan is for Will Levis. I mean, they may be taking the approach of this that, hey, last year what we did to Malik was not right. So what we're going to do this year is we are going to sit Levis on the bench and he's going to stay on the bench. That could be what they're doing. Unless we have to play him. But I don't know. And as I tell you guys all the time when it comes to the Titans and things like this, they're never going to tell you. If you ask Vrabel tomorrow, hey, Mike, is it indicative of Will Levis's inability to be the potential franchise quarterback because through the first 4 games of his NFL career he's been inactive in place of Ryan Tannehill? He's not going to answer that question with a yay or nay or with a he's not going to. There's going to be no transparency when it comes to Will Levis. And so I think you'll know. Here's how I think you'll know how they feel about Will Levis. If they go into the offseason and they let Tannehill walk and they don't draft a guy and they don't sign a guy and they spend the entire offseason telling you that, hey, he's our guy, then that means that they believe in him. And if they immediately turn around after the season and sign Tannehill for a 1-year, $30 million contract, then you know that they probably don't believe that with Will Levis. And I think there are 2 examples of that this year in Desmond Ridder and Sam Howell. Now, Desmond Ridder freaking stinks right now for Atlanta, and Sam Howell's actually playing pretty decent football for Washington. But in both cases, everybody kept thinking that those were going to be teams that would upgrade at quarterback, and they were never interested in actually upgrading at the quarterback position in the offseason because they thought they had their guys. Tremaine is up next. Tremaine, we have not heard from you in forever. Go ahead, Tremaine.
Hey, what's going on, Jared? You just said something, and I had to call and catch you on it about how you're praying for Will Levis, to be this great thing. And I got to be honest with you, man. I want Will to do well, and I believe he will do well. But to say that you're praying for him to be as good as a Warren Moon or as good as a Steve McNair or as good as a Vince Young, then, man, I don't know if we'll ever see that level of talent, that elite level talent in Tennessee again. And for us to say that we're going to try to put that kind of pressure on him to be that kind of quarterback, bro, I just don't see that happening. I really don't.
Well, I mean, the pressure's on him no matter what. That's when you become a quarterback in the NFL, that's what the pressure is. I understand the idea, the difference between the Colts drafting Anthony Richardson 4th overall and Jim Irsay basically, this is going to be the guy that leads us back to Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck, and he's got more talent, he's unbelievable. And, I understand the difference between that. Anthony Richardson gets the job, and he's a team captain. And, again, Sam Howell, who it's let's see. But, I mean, with Sam Howell, there's still pressure to be the winning quarterback of the Washington Commanders. And that's what this is all about. You win the game on Sunday. Ian, what does Coach Prime always say? You play good.
They pay good.
They pay good. And that's for every quarterback in the league. I had a buddy I went to college with. He pitches in the big leagues right now. I think he's with the Rockies. And he was a starter for the Diamondbacks years ago. And I asked him one time, I said, did you ever think to yourself that if I'm really good at this, really good at this, I could make $100 million. And he said, well, the fact that when he pitched with the Diamondbacks, he followed Zach Greinke, who has made well over $100 million. He was like, yeah, I thought about it. He said, I was walking in from the bullpen one day. He was walking in from the bullpen during the starting lineups. And they were playing the San Francisco Giants. And they were, Buster Posey and this guy and that guy. And he's like, Yeah, if I can get these guys out, they're going to pay me $100 million. And so when you're talking about, well, we're putting too much pressure on Will Levis, when we're talking about Will Levis being a franchise quarterback, I mean, that's the case for all these quarterbacks. They all have that pressure, and they all know. They know the going rate. Like, they know that if you're a decent starting quarterback in this league, you're making $30 to $40 million a year. They know it. I guarantee you, Desmond Ridder knows, if I don't turn things around right now in Atlanta, they're going to do to me what they did to Marcus last year. They're going to sit my butt on the bench, and they're going to put somebody else in there, and they're going to pay him $30 million and not me. So the pressure's on Levis. And I'm not sure that necessarily is going to change. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. We'll get back to your phones. Plus, I do think that of all of the different, milestones that get accomplished and everything else, that what Derrick Henry did on Sunday was pretty special. And I don't know if it helps him for the Hall of Fame or not. We'll touch on that next. Stillman and Company, 615-737-1025. Twice daily. I love Twice Daily. That's right. Twice Daily, they are the best. That's why you got to download the Twice Daily app and join their loyalty program to unlock special discount savings and so much more. It pays to be a member with Twice Daily, where you'll earn points and save money with every visit. Get what you crave at Twice Daily. Made to order sandwiches, bakery, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Fresh items made to go. Hot drink, cold drinks, and, of course, stop by the Beer Cave to unwind with a cold one. And be sure to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month with Twice Daily. They have store giveaways all month long. And all you have to do is download that app and be a Twice Daily Loyalty Club member. Until October 21st, get a free bag of Frito-Lay chips. And until October 15th, 50 cents off of Panfino varieties of Bon Appetit products. And be sure to, again, download the Twice Daily app to be a member of the loyalty program. Twice Daily, fresh all day.
Every day we are live and local.
You need to give Ron Tannehill a 2-year extension.
There haven't been too many coaching changes for the Predators.
And your source for Nashville sports.
I think that's what the Titans need.
Players who can score.
We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Oh, Charlie's, that's where you'll find me. That southern flavor got me saying, hey, y'all. And ooh, that gooey caramel pie tastes like summertime at Old Charlie's.
The sweet, sweet sounds of this song are in honor of the sweet, sweet news that Free Pie Wednesdays are back at O'Charlie's. O'Charlie's. Oh, that's good.
Yum, yum, have some fun. O'Charlie's. Born in Nashville and it shows.
Green Trees Company Dispensary and 102.5 The Game want to send you to see Kiss at Bridgestone Arena October 23rd. Keep listening to Nashville's best sports talk for your chance to win tickets to see Kiss on their End of the Road tour, courtesy of Green Trees Company Dispensary.
Vanderbilt Commodore fans, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game, along with 94.9 The Fan, is your new home for broadcast of games and the Commodore Hour on Monday evenings. Catch all the action for football, men's and women's basketball, and baseball all season long. Go Doors!
This week's Nashville's best deal is 312 Pizza Company. Serving the best pizza in town, as well as Chicago-style eats like Chicago dogs, Italian beef sandwiches, and more. It's also a great spot to grab a beer and watch your favorite team on the big screen. 312 Pizza Company, 371 Monroe Street in Germantown. Head to theGameNashville.com/deals and get half off a $30 gift card. It's 312 Pizza Company, while supplies last.
Every Wednesday at 8:30. Join Robbie and Rexroad for The Choice is Yours.
2 sports questions, 2 non-sports questions.
They'll answer a couple of questions about life and sports. The Choice is Yours is built by Jarrett Companies. You have a choice. So when you have a need for site and utility work, fire protection, concrete and asphalt services, the choice is simple. It's Jarrett Companies. For more, visit JarrettCompaniesInc.com. The Choice is Yours. Wednesdays at 8:30 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
This is Greg McElroy, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
How happy are you for Derek to pass Earl Campbell and come and win, obviously?
Yep. We're always happy for our players when they have success, and how important Derek is to this franchise and this team and me and everybody else. So told the Buckeye Eddie George that Derek's coming for him.
There you go. That was Vrabel talking about Derrick Henry passing Earl Campbell. Now, I said this yesterday on the program, but I want to reiterate it. That is not nothing. There's a lot of these milestones that come out, and it's, he's the first guy ever to do this since 2002 on the road after the third inning, like those kind of, all right, whatever. Passing Earl Campbell for rushing yards in the organization that Earl Campbell made famous, that is a big deal. Now, here's what I was stunned by. Pro Football Reference has what they call the Hall of Fame monitor. And they have all of these sites have the Hall of Fame monitor, baseball for hitters and pitchers, football, they compile all this stuff, how many Pro Bowls did you go to? How many All-Pros were you named to? How many MVPs did you win? How many Super Bowls did your team win? How many? And they give you a number. And so they tell you how close you are to the Hall of Fame or how far away you are or whatever it may be. And I have no idea, by the way, if passing Earl Campbell for rushing yards in Titans-Oilers history, I have no idea if that matters 7 years from now when the Paul Kaharskis of the world are all sitting there at the Super Bowl trying to decide whether or not Derrick Henry belongs in the Hall of Fame. But Pro Football Reference gives Derrick Henry a Hall of Fame monitor of 33.5. The average Hall of Famer is 107. So Pro Football Reference basically gives Derrick Henry no chance to make it to the Hall of Fame. In fact, that same metric gives Ahman Green and Ray Rice a better chance of making it to the Hall of Fame. Now, I think that that's crazy. But here are the backs that are in Derrick's vicinity at 35.5. Kevin Falk, Todd Gurley, Thomas Jones, Reggie Bush, Kurt Warner, and this is the Kurt Warner who was drafted in that 83 draft, Christian McCaffrey. Trying to see if there's anybody else whose name, I recognize. These are some old people. Michael Turner, Le'Veon Bell, Brian Westbrook. I mean, this is crazy talk. That Lorenzo Neal, a fullback, and I love Lorenzo Neal, but he's got a better chance of making the Hall of Fame than Derrick Henry, according to this. Matt Forte has a better chance of making it to the Hall of Fame than Derrick Henry. Mike Allstott has a better chance of making it to the Hall of Fame. I mean, this is great. Tiki Barber has a better chance of making it to the Hall of Fame than Derrick Henry, according to Pro Football Reference. So, I don't know what passing Earl Campbell means, and I do think that Derrick Henry will ultimately pass Eddie George. And normally, as these games are going on, I don't care about individual accomplishments or anything like that. But, man, to see that list and see where Derrick is, oh, my goodness gracious. Texter says, stop comparing Derrick Henry with Ryan Tannehill and putting them together. Derrick has been largely productive, and Tannehill has not lived up to his check. I mean, I think Tannehill's lived up to his check. Tannehill made $7 million and got you to the AFC Championship game. I think that that's a bargain in this league. Then he's made about $30 million on average for the last 4 years. And I think it's like 29.5. And at $30 million, you've won 2 divisions. And last year, he had you in the driver's seat before he got hurt of making it to the playoffs. To me, that is living up to your check. Now, if they had paid him $50 million, then he wouldn't be living up to his check. But where he sits right now, I think he very much is living up to the check. Texter says, Jared, are you thinking it's just the offensive line that keeps the Titans from being a Super Bowl contender, or is there an additional position group? Here's where I think the Titans are lacking in terms of contending for the Super Bowl. Quarterback, tight end, wide receiver, offensive line, inside linebacker, outside linebacker, corner, safety, punt returner, and kickoff returner. I think the kicker and the punter are fine. I think the running back is fine. But outside of that, I don't think you have Super Bowl contending team anywhere. Defensive line. But even the defensive line, like I'm a little, I want to see a little bit more from the defense here in terms of getting to the quarterback and causing, I like the Titans' defensive line, but this isn't the Titans' defensive line where Albert Haynesworth was single-handedly dominating these games and forcing these quarterbacks to run backwards and just throw the ball in the air and it get intercepted. Like Simmons and those guys aren't doing that. Texter says, every quarterback playing the game right now has blown it in the playoffs at least once. Let it go. I don't see anyone blaming Derrick Henry for his 69-yard performance in the AFC Championship game against the Chiefs. Why not? This isn't basketball. What's crazy about Henry in that AFC Championship game, he had 61 yards at the half. You were up 17-7 because you were running the ball with Derrick Henry. And then what happens is you weren't able to get a first down right before the half, and Mahomes scored a touchdown, and then you were playing catch-up the whole rest of the way. Kyle says, who is the worst quarterback to ever win a Super Bowl, in your opinion? Well, isn't that kind of always aren't there kind of four quarterbacks that people circle when they say, and I hate to do this, but the worst quarterbacks to win Super Bowls? And it's always some combination of Trent Dilfer, Joe Flacco, Doug Williams, and Brad Johnson. Because everybody else that wins Super Bowls are, John Elway, Steve Young, Joe Montana, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Ben Roethlisberger. So I guess to be fair, in my lifetime, Dilfer. With Joe Flacco 2, Brad Johnson 3, and I guess Eli Manning 4. In terms of bad quarterbacks to win the Super Bowl. And I'd say Tannehill is kind of like a Eli Manning. Now, Eli had more talent, and that's why Eli was able to go off on the 2 playoff runs that Eli went off. But, Eli was fine. And I think that ultimately Tannehill is fine, kind of like Eli. Texter says, so do you think Brock Purdy is that guy, or is it just the team around him because he would be great on the Jets? I think not. I mean, I think the coaching is a big part of that. I think the coaching's part of that. Steven says the Pro Football Reference Hall of Fame monitor does not project future stats for active players. Right, but how much more are you expecting Derrick Henry to accomplish? He's 29 years old. Even if Derrick runs for, 1,300 yards this year and ends up, somewhere near, I think that would put him around 9,000 yards for his career. And then he, has another, Derrick's not going to play 8 more years. I mean, the bulk of Derrick's career is behind him. So to say, well, they're not forecasting for the future, if we were talking about Tajay Spears, that would be different. We're talking about Derrick Henry, where most of his career, I think, is in the rearview mirror. That's why when Derrick Henry broke his foot, and again, not that I really care about individual accomplishments, but when Derrick Henry broke his foot, I sat here and I just had my head oh, no. Because I knew the way they were running him and the production that he was giving them. They had already won the AFC South. They went on the road to beat Indianapolis on Halloween night, and I think at that point they were minus 3,000 to win the AFC South. That had, stuck a fork in the division. It was over. I mean, that year Jacksonville picked first, Houston picked third. You had beaten Indianapolis twice. You had a 3-game lead and a tiebreaker. It was over. So I wasn't worried about making the playoffs or anything like that. but he was going to win a third straight rushing title. I feel like that was kind of, indisputable. And I thought he was going to run for 2,000 again. And if Derek had run for 2,000 and had 3 straight rushing titles, I don't think you could have not put him in the Hall of Fame. And that's why I was sitting there when he broke his foot, and I was like, oh, no. Because I knew, I was like, that might be, that might be the Hall of Fame. That might be it. Texter says Nick Foles won the Super Bowl. Oh, yeah, I hate when we do this. Where people are, going to be like, oh, yeah, let's add this quarterback to that. I hate that. So don't text in with quarterbacks that won Super Bowls. One texter says, is Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan the new Brady versus Belichick? Look, man, Bill Belichick didn't win anything without Tom Brady. Kyle Shanahan has been to 3 NFC championship games in the last 4 years with Jimmy freaking Garoppolo as his quarterback. Kyle Shanahan made Matt Ryan league MVP. Matt Ryan, average quarterback, league MVP. That would be like being such a good quarterback coach that you made Ryan Tannehill league MVP. That's what Shanahan is. So I don't think there's that kind of discussion here. Texter said, Jared, you've said that Tannehill can't win a Super Bowl. Do you think Stafford is better than Tannehill? Yes. And I watched Stafford play against the Colts the other day. Stafford, I mean, gosh, he throws a freaking laser beam. He's just throwing that ball right. This Puka Nakua or whatever, he's the new Cooper Kupp. He just throws the ball to him on every play. And it's a freaking BB when he throws it. 615-737-1025. More of your phones. 615-737-1025 here on the program. Plus, there is one take that I'm going to have to say, man, boy, I got duped on that one. We'll get to that coming up next. Stillman and Company right here, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Oh,
Blue Raider football lives on 93.3 Classic Hits.
Coming up Wednesday, the Blue Raiders take on Jacksonville State in the blackout game at Floyd Stadium. Join Chip Walters and Big Joe Dubin starting at 6 o'clock.
Your home for the Blue Raiders is 93.3 Classic Hits.
DraftKings Sports and Social is bringing you the ultimate fan experience this football season with a 48-foot media wall, 22 TVs, mouth-watering game day eats, and cold beer. DraftKings Sports and Social, opening October 5th at Nashville Live on 2nd Avenue.
Are you drowning in credit card debt? Want to get cash out of your home's equity? Loan Pronto can do it now in less than a week. Hey, Willie Donick here. That's right. Loan Pronto's Equity Express line of credit just got even faster. You can get $50,000, $100,000, even $200,000 in as little as 5 days. You don't even have to touch your primary mortgage. You can keep that 3% rate intact. Get just the money you need and pay off all those credit cards or get that home improvement project started. With this revolutionary program, you can access up to 90% of your home's value, and in most cases, there's no appraisal. Stop paying insane interest rates to the credit card companies and get tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash in as little as 5 days. Call Loan Pronto now for the even faster Equity Express line. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. 615-499-5780. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
If you are experiencing persistent shoulder pain that may be the result of overuse or an injury such as a rotator cuff tear or tendonitis, the world-class orthopedic team at Houston Clinic Orthopedics will give you the appropriate medical attention to prevent any additional damage to the shoulder. Chronic pain or a permanent injury may occur without proper treatment. Houston Clinic Orthopedics is conveniently located where you work and live. Visit their website at tn.houston.com and book your appointment online. When experience matters, trust Houston Clinic Orthopedics.
Nashville's radio version of The Odd Couple.
You would trade for the third pick? Yeah, I don't know that I would do that.
Robbie Stanley and Joe Rexrode are Robbie and Rexrode.
I'm here for the discussion. I'm not. It's a good one. It's absurd.
Robbie and Rexrode. Mornings from 6 to 9.
Win the games. When they get in the playoff, they'll have a chance to.
Presented by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
I got to admit I was wrong about something, and then we'll get right back to your phones. The Steelers. What is going on with my Steelers? Now, you know I'm not a Steeler fan, but I watched the preseason, and I was all in on the Steelers, and I was all in on Kenny Pickett, and now they can't get a first down. Now they're 2-2, and the season is young, but Kenny Pickett's hurt, and everybody in Pittsburgh wants to fire Matt Canada, and Matt Canada has never been a good offensive coordinator ever. He was terrible in college. He's been terrible in the NFL. And I look like such a dope for my preseason Steelers take about what I saw in the preseason of Kenny Pickett and company lighting it up and thinking that they were going to be something special. And now he's hurt, and they can't get a first down, which is just so heartbreaking. Travis is up next here on the Titans. Thank you for calling. Thank you for waiting. What's up, Travis?
You know, Jared, most of the time I agree with you, but, man, you're killing me with this one. You basically said our whole team couldn't make it to the Super Bowl. There's one thing that every team has in common when going to the Super Bowl is they get hot in the playoffs. Remember when Derrick Henry was running for about 200 yards a game and we got to the AFC Championship? We were up on the Chiefs. I feel like we would have won the Super Bowl if we'd have beat them.
But you know why you didn't get to the Super Bowl and why you didn't win the Super Bowl?
Yeah, because Mahomes kept scrambling out and getting first downs. I mean,
right, because your defensive line
does.
wasn't good enough, your linebackers weren't good enough, and your DBs were hurt, and so you had to run Tremaine Brock Sr. out there on the field. So you didn't get to the AFC Championship. You got to the AFC Championship game. You didn't get to the Super Bowl because you couldn't block well enough for Derrick Henry, because you couldn't block Chris Jones or Frank Clark. You couldn't throw the ball well enough to keep up with Patrick Mahomes, and you couldn't play defense.
We did the first half. We did the first half. You couldn't say that for the first half. We just dropped the ball in the second half. They made adjustments. We should have made better adjustments.
Or they had Patrick Mahomes and you didn't?
Well, I mean, yeah, that's a good point. But, I mean, it's not like Tannehill didn't get us there. He got us there. Got us there just fine. He was doing
he's
great,
not
actually.
Mahomes.
He's not behind. Nobody's Mahomes. But we were in the AFC Championship.
Right.
And you said the receivers.
So, okay, but let's go back to this again. We're talking about position groups on the field that make you a Super Bowl contender, right? What are the two teams? Kansas City has made it to the Super Bowl 3 of the last 5 years, and they've hosted the AFC Championship game the last 5 seasons. Who are the two quarterbacks? Hold on, Travis. Who are the two quarterbacks that have gone into Arrowhead and beaten the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game?
Burrow and I can't remember the other one, but
Brady.
There's only been 2. So
Burrow and Brady. Do you have Burrow or Brady at quarterback?
And they got lucky. Brady got lucky, so yeah.
But do you have Burrow or Brady at quarterback?
No, but we got Derrick Henry.
Okay.
And we got
that's the problem.
So.
Thank you for your call, Travis. That's the problem. Like, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, you know, hey, like, and let's use Lamar Jackson as the example here. Lamar Jackson is a really, really, really good football player. But is Lamar Jackson good enough to get you to the Super Bowl? I brought up Justin Herbert as an example. I like Herbert. I think Herbert could throw for 500 yards a game. But when Herbert gets into all these close games, Herbert finds a way to screw it up. Or Herbert's coach finds a way to screw it up. Or Herbert's team finds a way to screw it up. And when they pay you $52 million a year, you got to figure out how to win those games. Like, that's the thing. Now, look, not every team that goes to the Super Bowl or that wins the Super Bowl is going to have, Super Bowl caliber players at every position, right? This isn't college football where Nick Saban can roll out a team with a first-round draft choice at every position. But for the most part, the Kansas City Chiefs, for instance, have a Super Bowl caliber tight end, a Super Bowl caliber quarterback, a Super Bowl caliber defensive tackle, a Super Bowl caliber inside backer in Nick Bolton. Like, they've got Super Bowl players. You don't. And they have Super Bowl players at the most important positions on the field. And you don't. I mean, again, the most important positions. You have Tannehill at quarterback, who is, what, the 14th, the 17th best quarterback in the league? Okay. Who's your left tackle? Who's your number one wide receiver? Think about the Eagles. Compare you to the Eagles, right? Offensive line, Eagles. Wide receivers, Eagles. Tight end, Eagles. Defensive line, Eagles. Secondary, Eagles. You just don't have Super Bowl caliber players. You don't have, again, how many position groups are lacking? Well, but Jared, we got to the AFC Championship game, right, and then you lost. Because the only guys that go in there and beat those teams are the ones that have Super Bowl caliber quarterbacks. That's the difference. Texture says, you're talking Titans to the Super Bowl, and the Titans have played one good quarter of football. And not only have they played one good quarter of football, and I don't want to ruin the next topic that we're going to get into at 4 o'clock, but I mean, how seriously can we laud the defense for that performance on Sunday? Texture says, Jared, don't forget the year Derrick Henry broke his foot. He probably would have won the MVP. That was the year that all the quarterbacks kind of stunk, and no one stood out that year except for Henry. Who won the MVP 2 years ago? It was Mahomes last year. Who won it in 2021?
I'll look that up.
Rodgers. It would have been Rodgers. It would have always been Rodgers. So I'm not worried about that, one way or another. Texture says, how about those Kansas City wide receivers? Are we talking about Kansas City's wide receivers that they've won Super Bowls with, or are we talking about the Kansas City wide receivers right now? Because there's a difference between the two. Those Kansas City receivers right now, if Kansas City doesn't win the Super Bowl, I think it will be because of those receivers. Those receivers are just freaking awful. Whew. Somebody was talking about Daniel Jones, and boy, he was lousy last night. But they were talking about how Daniel Jones, for all these years, had, Kadarius Toney and Richie James to throw the ball to, and everybody said Daniel Jones sucks. Now Mahomes has Kadarius Toney and Richie James to throw the ball to, and everybody's like, it's not Mahomes' fault, whereas they didn't give Daniel Jones kind of the same leeway. If Mahomes loses Kelsey, I don't think Kansas City can win the Super Bowl. That's how, before they could afford to lose a Jones or a Hill or a Kelsey. Like, they could lose one of those guys because if they lost Kelsey, then they had Hill. But now I think they're too thin to where they cannot lose, like, Kelsey, and then it'll be what Mahomes was in that Thursday nighter against the Lions. But they've got Super Bowl players that you don't have. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. To the Titan defense, which I kind of told you we were going to get into. I heard Amani Hooker talking about how we think we should be a dominant defense every game. Well, they just held Joe Burrow and Cincinnati to 3 points. But can we take the Titan defense seriously? We'll get to that next. Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. That's right. I love Hiller. They've been taking care of my home for forever, and they can do the exact same for you. If you have things around your home that you have been putting off fixing, like your regular HVAC maintenance or a clogged bathroom drain, Hiller has some big discounts this month. When the temperatures drop and you start using your heater for the first time, you do not want to be dealing with breakdowns and issues. And this month, Hiller is offering half-off HVAC tune-ups. And Hiller is bringing back their $99 drain cleaning special. For just $99, Hiller will get you back up and running. These deals only last this month, so be sure to call now. And Hiller's work is backed by the Happy You'll Be Your Services Free guarantee. And I know that because I use Hiller at my home. I love Hiller. They take great care of me, and they offer convenient, quick online booking, so set the appointment time that works for you, and boom, get an instant confirmation. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, proud supporters of the Preds, the Vols, and Vandy. Hiller. Call the Happy Face Truck today.
We are Nashville's best sports talk, live and local from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. When you want the national
Hey. I got this. I'll take it from here.
Okay, go ahead. Dying to hear this.
We have the best national voices that you'll find anywhere.
Who was more deserving of being thrown from their game?
I'm odd, so I get the odd picks.
They have a new coaching staff.
It's not a bad scenario for them.
We are 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
And 94.9 The Fan.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Jewelry business, it's in my blood. I've been doing it all my life, and it's my passion.
Meet Daniel Sabalas, a third-generation jeweler at Genesis Diamonds.
This line of work, it's all about honesty and trust. It's about building relationships.
And that's what drew Daniel to Genesis, where it's all about education, transparency, and respect for each customer.
It's based on a family business mentality, and that's how we are. We're here to educate, to guide you, and we make it very easy. So we really go out of our way to educate customers in the right way. There's no stress level, there's no tension. The customer can feel that.
All this while providing the guaranteed best value price.
I've never seen a company that has the best price like this that I've seen anywhere. We are a powerhouse of diamonds.
Genesis Diamonds. No commission salespeople, no pricing games, no risk, no pressure, no cutting corners.
Genesis Diamonds is going to give you the best price, best quality, guaranteed, no matter what.
Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs.
The Electronic Express 40th anniversary sale is going on now. Help us celebrate 40 years of service and save up to 40% throughout the entire store. This week, get a Hisense 65-inch 4K TV for only $399, or a stainless steel refrigerator only $499. Plus, get up to 60 months special financing on items like a top-load laundry pair, only $349 each, or an LG touchscreen laptop, just $799. Shop our 40th anniversary sale. Electronic Express. We make it happen.
Now, your Game Center update.
After the big win over the Cincinnati Bengals on Sunday, the Tennessee Titans will look to turn the page as they take on the Indianapolis Colts this weekend. Titans head coach Mike Vrabel spoke yesterday about how they can try and carry that momentum into this week.
I think you can show them what everybody's capable of when we all do our job and we get going. And I think a lot of that is attributed to what you do in practice. Just the understanding of the looks you saw in practice and the ones that you don't see. Can't show them everything, right? There's going to be some things that you're not going to be able to see in practice, but just having an understanding enough of the play to be able to execute it off of a look that you haven't seen, or being instinctive enough to be able to execute it.
The team announced yesterday that they have designated wide receiver Kyle Phillips to return from injured reserve, opening up his window to practice. Titans versus Colts is set for noon on Sunday. And the Major League Baseball playoffs have begun with Texas and Tampa Bay underway in the early game, followed by Toronto and Minnesota, Arizona versus Milwaukee, and Miami versus Philly. From the Game Nashville studios, this is Ian Safar.
Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Nashville's exclusive home for the Nashville Predators. 102.5 and 106.3.
79-52 Vanderbilt. And I think he's going to coach up by Cheryl.
You're going to see more moves.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Where you have a voice.
He had a competent coaching staff. You just play terrible and you keep playing.
And we have strong opinions.
What a whiny freaking crybaby response.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. Trevor going to join us on Thursday this week, not on Tuesday, a scheduling conflict for Trev, so we look forward to talking to him on Thursday. But I've got in front of me the stats from Sunday's game. The Titans allowed 14 first downs for Cincinnati. 14, that's awful. Cincinnati was 22% on third down, 2 of 9, and 0 of 1 on fourth down. Cincinnati got 4.1 yards a play. Meanwhile, the Titans had 6.5. Cincinnati had 211 total net yards. Time of possession, Titans 34 minutes, Bengals 25. great defensive performance. And yet, at the same time, I have a hard time looking at the Titans defense right now and saying, you guys are golden. Now, going into the season, I thought the Titans were going to have an elite defense. I watched them at training camp dominate the Titans offense almost every day. Then I went to Minnesota, and I said before the Minnesota trip, I said, look, this is going to be what tells us if this is for real or not. And they went to Minnesota, and for 2 days, they put it on the Vikings. Christian Fulton, who couldn't cover anybody last week against the Browns, had like a one-handed 2-foot interception in the end zone against the Vikings. So I walked out of Minnesota, and I was like, that defense is ready for New Orleans. That defense is good to go. First game, they give up 16 points. Yeah, they had some big plays that I didn't like, but for the most part, defense held. They got after the quarterback. They got what was a strip sack that should have been returned for a touchdown. Like, they looked the part of dominating defense. Then week 2 against the Chargers, there was some give and some take, but they really didn't force a lot of turnovers. Week 3 against the Browns was an unmitigated disaster, and it had a lot of us questioning if this defense was going to be any good. And then last week, they went out there against Cincinnati, and they held them to 211 total yards of offense. But it's hard for me to look at the Bengals right now and what Joe Burrow is playing with, and it's hard for me to credit the defense and to say, yeah, that was a real dominant performance. I mean, I've seen smothering defenses before. I've seen the Titans with smothering defenses. I've seen the Titans get smothered by great defenses, like the early 2000s Ravens, the Browns last week. I mean, we've seen those defenses. And what those defenses do really well is not only is it like every handoff is a loss of 2, and the quarterback gets sacked or is in running for his life in almost every big moment of a game, but they also force turnovers. Like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense of the early 2000s with Warren Sapp and Simeon Rice and Derek Brooks and John Lynch and Rondé Barber and all those guys that are in the Hall of Fame. Those defenses suffocated you. Like when you went into a game, you knew you could not block those guys. You knew you could not block Warren Sapp or Simeon Rice. And I don't think the Titans have that. I mean, the Titans didn't even really force much. I mean, they had the one turnover on the fumble, but it wasn't like, the Titans were picking off passes on Sunday and they weren't batting balls down at the line of scrimmage. And they really weren't even getting after Burrow that much, and he couldn't move at all. Cincinnati right now has the worst offense in the NFL. They are ranked 32nd in the league. They're 30th in first downs. They're 29th in passing. They're 31st in rushing. They're awful. So I don't want to discredit the Titan defense, but I also want to be realistic, which is I just kind of look at their performance Sunday and I think, well, you know what? You did your job. Move on to this week. And this week against the Colts, who do not have a good offense. Their offensive line is not very good. Their receivers are not inspiring. They've got Mo Alley Cox, the tight end that's been there for like the last 33 years. Mo Alley Cox, he's like a fullback playing tight end. He catches the ball, and then he lowers his head like Larry Zonka, and he just starts trying to run through people. They've got an okay running game with Zach Moss. There's some rumors that Jonathan Taylor could be back, but I don't worry about Jonathan Taylor. But I'm worried about Anthony Richardson against the Titans on Sunday. I'm worried about the Titans defense having those mental lapses like they've had. It's almost like they went out there and held the Bengals to 3 points, and I can't give them any credit for how they played because Joe Burrow was so hurt. And it's not like I don't want to give the defense credit. I do. I want the defense to be great, but I'm trying to be realistic here, and I'm trying for us to have fair expectations and a real sense of reality as to what's actually going on. And I have no idea if the defense was any good on Sunday. Like if that was a dominant defensive performance or Cincinnati's playing with 30% of its elite quarterback. You've got Jamar Chase after the game complaining about how he was wide open all the time and they don't give him the ball. And I'm like, dude, your quarterback is on one leg right now. I don't know how you can expect him to do better, but apparently Chase does. So, while I thought Tannehill played great on Sunday, I thought Henry played great on Sunday, I thought the receivers played great on Sunday, I thought the play calling on offense was great on Sunday, I thought the kicker kicked great on Sunday, I thought the punter punted great on Sunday. With the defense that held the Bengals to 211 yards and 3 points, I just kind of shrugged my shoulders like, yeah, I mean, I guess. Do you have a good defense? Normally when you hold teams with Super Bowl caliber quarterbacks to 211 yards, you think you got a good defense. But I can't go there. I can't go there at all. Because Joe Burrow is so maligned right now that there's almost no way for me to be able to have a read on how the defense looked on Sunday. And I'm worried that the defense is not that good. Now, here's a little fun fact when it comes to the Titans defense that I was actually shocked by. So Tuesday morning is when everything becomes official as to where you stand in the NFL because all the games are over. And after 4 weeks of the NFL season, the Titans have the 12th ranked defense and they're 8th in points allowed. Now, again, what you are after 4 weeks is not going to be what you are after 17 weeks. I think we all know that. But at the same time, like 8th in points allowed, that's not bad. 12th in total defense when your offensive line is as bad as it's been. Like, that's not bad. And yet, I still am mad at the defense for the busted coverages that they allowed versus the Browns. I'm still mad at the defense for allowing Derek Carr to throw the ball right over their head in the opener with the Saints at the end of the game, or allowing Jamal Williams to run the ball right up the middle. Like, I'm still mad at the defense, even though going into the game on Sunday, not knowing how healthy or unhealthy Joe Burrow was, I felt like if you can get 211 yards out of them, you should give your defense credit. I have a hard time getting there. And I know some people will say it's unfair. But again, 12th in total defense. Last season, with all their injuries and everything else, the Titans didn't have a dominant defense, and they were 32nd in passing. And they've certainly, helped themselves out in that regard, because right now their passing defense went from 28th to 23rd, which is better than 32nd what it was last year. And the defense as a whole is better than they were last year when they were 23rd in the NFL. So maybe I'm being too hard on them. Maybe I'm not being fair. But I almost give the defense no credit for what happened on Sunday. 615-737-1025. Add the defense to the list if you want to weigh in. 615-737-1025. Plus, I've got to give credit somewhere where I have been insanely critical for like the last 8 years on the Titans. And I'm almost worried to do it because I'm worried to jinx it. And I feel like that's what I might be doing, but we'll get to that next. 615-737-1025. Stillman and Company, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
New home. New energy. Same Blue Raiders.
99 yards! Touchdown, Middle Tennessee!
Catch every game for MTSU on 93.3 Classic Hits. Coach Rick Stockstill is poised to lead his team to yet another bowl appearance.
We're really excited about this opportunity.
Your home for the Blue Raiders is 93.3 Classic Hits and the Classic Hits app.
Smashville, Predators hockey is back. And you don't want to miss the biggest party on Broadway as we celebrate 25 years of Smashville all season long. Get your tickets now for opening night on October 12th as your Nashville Predators face off against the Seattle Kraken. Secure your seats now for the home opener at NashvillePredators.com/single game tickets. That's NashvillePredators.com/single game tickets. Let's go, Preds.
At Mercedes-Benz of Music City, a healthy and productive culture takes a day-to-day discipline. Here's Sam Cavett, General Manager, with a few thoughts.
Mercedes-Benz has its standard, and we have Dream Motor Group standards. They're definitely on the same level, but I feel like we challenge ourselves at least as much as Mercedes-Benz challenges us. It's a genuine motivation to take care of customers, and we see it in the customer reviews.
Live the dream at Mercedes-Benz of Music City, mbofmc.com.
Are you drowning in credit card debt? Want to get cash out of your home's equity? Loan Pronto can do it now in less than a week. Hey, Willie Donick here. That's right. Loan Pronto's Equity Express line of credit just got even faster. You can get $50,000, $100,000, even $200,000 in as little as 5 days. You don't even have to touch your primary mortgage. You can keep that 3% rate intact. Get just the money you need and pay off all those credit cards or get that home improvement project started. With this revolutionary program, you can access up to 90% of your home's value, and in most cases, there's no appraisal. Stop paying insane interest rates to the credit card companies and get tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash in as little as 5 days. Call Loan Pronto now for the even faster Equity Express line. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. 615-499-5780. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval.
Twin Peaks is the best in the game. Here, you're in the red zone for every college rivalry and divisional matchup all season long. On game day, you never have to decide which teams to watch, only what combination of bites, burgers, wings, and more to order. Plus, where else are your favorite draft beers always poured at a frozen 29 degrees? Only at Twin Peaks, the #1 sports bar.
Get wings the way you want them. Try Twin Peaks wings bone-in breaded, naked, smoked and grilled, or boneless in your favorite sauce or rub.
We try to stay cool by being on social media.
I'm with it. I'm hip.
Follow us on Twitter at 1025thegame and on Instagram at 1025thegame Nashville.
Hey!
Oh yeah, and like us on Facebook too. Strong opinions and a strong personality on your drive home. This is Stillman and Company on 1025 and 1063 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Kinsey done in terms of punt returns, averaging 12.5 yards. It's pretty good.
Yeah, and that's not only Mace, but that's a testament to those guys on that unit. You got to take care of the gunners. Had a really nice play there, a big return. Had the good return. Had the penalty. Really gave us some great field position there at the second quarter. So, probably would want them to fair catch the one. Being smart there. Chris Moore made a play as a gunner, knocked the football out there. So, yeah, Mace has done a nice job.
Maybe sticking with him when Kyle comes back?
We'll see. We'll see where Kyle's at. 48 guys going to the game. How many guys we can take.
There you go. That was Vrabel. And then the Titans released Mason Kinsey and designated Kyle Phillips to return, which I don't like, for a bunch of different reasons. So I teased this segment by saying that, something I've been very critical of has actually been pretty good lately. And immediately the text line, and our phones are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Literally consecutive texts. One guy, you're going to give Ackerman props. I can feel it coming. Ha ha. Another texter, don't praise Ackerman. Do not give him the kiss of death. Please let it rise. Another texter. Jared, do not do it. Do not give Craig Ackerman credit. Phillips is coming back, and we don't need the jinx. I know this is where you are going. So the text line has decided that they do not think that I should give the Titans special teams unit, which I have been very critical of over the years, credit for the fact that ever since the blocked punt at New Orleans, the Titans special teams has been solid for the most part. Now, Stonehouse was pissing me off with some of those punts, but he went out there last week, punted twice inside the 10 both times, including one out of bounds at the 9 and another punt that led to a fumble, and he got a game ball for that. The kicker that I didn't want them to sign because I didn't think he could kick long has hit from 50 and 53 and has not missed a kick yet and has been kicking touchbacks. And so as long as he keeps doing that, I'll keep being happy about it. The special teams has not been horrible. Kyrus Jackson had a nice little return that gave them an opportunity to win the Charger game, and Mason Kinsey had 2 good returns on Sunday and then had one stupid one where he was trying to play a little hero ball out there, and he should have just fair caught it instead of catching it going forward and getting drilled, for a gain of 3 yards or whatever it may be. But I have moaned and cried and complained and kvetched about the Titans special teams for years and years and years under Craig Aukerman, and I have called for Craig Aukerman to be fired for the last 6 years going. I have asked Mike Vrabel straight up why he won't fire Craig Aukerman, and as of right now, did you hear that, Ian?
Yep, you could hear it.
Knock on wood. The Titans special teams has actually been pretty decent. It's been pretty decent. So I know, text line, you don't want to jinx it because you're not used to the Titans being good on special teams either. But we got to call it how it is. That's the one thing, this show, I always say about this show, we got to be fair. We got to be fair on this show. It's the one thing that I, truly feel that no matter what you think of the show, what really matters to me is what I think of it. And so when I hear people say things like, Jared Stillman doesn't think the things he says, I don't get bothered because I know that everything that comes out of my mouth is what I believe. So you can believe whatever you want to, but I'm telling you what I think. And, I believe in personal accountability, and I believe in hosting a radio show that is entertaining and is critical, but most importantly is fair. And the special teams, since they got that punt blocked in New Orleans, they've been good. So we got to give them a little credit. Texter into the text line says, do you think the Titans drafted Kyle Phillips to be a return specialist or a wide receiver? I mean, I got to tell you this about Kyle Phillips. I don't give a rat's ass about Kyle Phillips. Every training camp, the local media people get so excited about Kyle Phillips, and then he goes out there and immediately gets injured, and he hasn't done anything in the league, and you've got 3 receivers on your football team right now that are providing you with actual production. Like, they're actually giving you something. Nick Westbrook-Akine has 2 touchdowns so far on the season. Chris Moore has caught 3 deep balls so far this year. DeAndre is playing like DeAndre. So I don't want to have to make room for Kyle Phillips because, in training camp, Kyle Phillips was pretty good last year. And I think it's freaking stupid to cut Mason Kinsey as your punt returner when he's actually returning punts and catching punts and he's actually doing a good job to go put Phillips back there, who we all have to pray is going to catch the ball on Sunday. So it drives me crazy. Texter says, it only took 6 years. Maybe the Titans will get a return for a touchdown in the next 6 years. You know what I always think about when it comes to Titans special teams? When are they going to block a kick? When are they going to block a punt? When are they going to block a kick? When are they going to return a punt for a touchdown?
Those don't happen in the NFL as much as they used to, though, in general.
They happen to you.
When?
You got a punt blocked week 1.
Okay, fair point. But
no
returns.
Colts a couple years ago, you got 2 punts blocked.
Well, one of those were in crazy circumstances because the punter situation was all out of whack.
Well, but that was their own doing.
Yeah, well, that, like I said, that doesn't happen very often in the league.
Well, I'd like them to block a kick. It's been 4 years since they blocked
the Kansas City situation.
The Colts.
Oh, that's right. They had one in the Colts.
They went to Indianapolis, and Adam Vinatieri couldn't kick anymore, and they blocked it and returned it for a touchdown.
Oh, yeah. See, also a situation where, the other kicker was more the problem than the actual unit of the block, just like the Titans situation.
I'd like to block a kick.
A punt return for a touchdown. Now, that I would like to see. The block I could get away with, but I'd like to see some more
When's the last time the Titans returned a punt for a touchdown?
I don't know. Was it Mark Mariani or Darius Raynaud?
I have no idea. When Darius Raynaud returned kicks for this team 10 years ago.
That's what I got. I don't even know. I can't remember anything on a punt return. That's what I mean. It needs to step it up a little bit. You used to be every week with Pac-Man back there.
Right now we're lauding the special teams because they're making 50-yard field goals. Like, teams in the NFL, they had a guy come out yesterday. He made it from like 56. Just like, yep, right down the pipe. I mean, that's, a 53-yard kick is not the end of the world in the NFL. It is around here. But it's not something that is all that uncommon. So, again, they haven't ruined anything since the Saints game when they got that punt blocked. So I have to give them a little credit. Michael from Missouri says, Jared, I think you're short-selling the defense. I see your point that Burrow is clearly not right, but this team, both historically and under Vrabel, has made a habit of losing games to bad or hurt quarterbacks. When did they lose to a hurt quarterback? I'm trying to think.
Mahomes was a little dinged, but they won that game, right?
When they
destroyed the Chiefs.
He had the knee injury, and he had come back, and they blocked a kick and ended up winning the game. He said, I'm not ready to call the defense elite. They're definitely better than bad, so I think they get some credit for how they played Sunday. I don't know, dude. There's a part of me that thinks you could have put Vandy's defense out there, which is terrible, that you could have put Vandy's defense out there, and with Joe Burrow playing the way he's playing, they would have not been able to move the football.
Yeah, Wentz was hurt with his double sprained ankles, and they destroyed him that game.
Oh, and even then, the Titans actually played horribly on offense that game. I remember they won the game, and I complained about it. And I said, they play that way against the Jets, they'll lose. And then I picked the Jets to win. And everybody, again, thought I was doing it just for show. And then they lost to the Jets because Zach Wilson went off. Texter says, Phillips is the new Racey McMath. The local media has loved Phillips way more than they ever loved McMath. Like, the local media thinks Kyle Phillips is a good wide receiver in the NFL, which I don't believe. I would not put Kyle Phillips on the field Sunday in terms of wide receiver unless I had to. Oh, my goodness. One texter says Burrow was hurt and put hurt in quotations on Sunday. Joe Burrow is very clearly hurt. Like, if you watch the Bengals play and you think that Joe Burrow isn't hurt, or you think that, I think he's 30% healthy right now. 30% of Joe Burrow.
Probably more than that this week. Maybe the week before. I would have put him closer to 50% this week.
No, he's 30%. He can't drive off that calf. He can't run it all. He can't step. He can't stand in. He can't move around to let a guy get open down the field. It has ruined everything that they do.
I thought they should have run the ball more. They were running the ball early on pretty well with Joe Mixon, and then they stopped completely.
Oh, they were running it for 7 yards of crack on first down. Oh, no. One texter says, I thought Joe Burrow was elite. Ha ha. Dude. Joe Burrow is that dude. And if you can't look at Joe Burrow right now, the only reason Joe Burrow is playing is because Joe Burrow is never going to not play. I told Caroline this last year when the Titans benched Tannehill, or they took him out in place of Malik Willis in a blowout at Buffalo. And everybody was like, oh, Tannehill shouldn't be upset about this. And Tannehill's not, he understands and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, Vrabel was on the sidelines with Todd Downing, Tannehill, and Logan Woodside and had his arms around them, telling him, hey, it's okay. We're not benching you. You're only coming out because we don't want to get you hurt. He's not having that conversation with Derrick Henry. He's having the conversation with Tannehill because the quarterback does not go out of the game. Even when they're getting beat, and they're getting their teeth kicked in, those quarterbacks do not come out. It's like an embarrassment that I played so poorly that I have to come out. And I saw on Sunday after the Titans, hold on, I wrote it down in the notes of when it happened, that the Titans, I want to say they punted, or maybe it was the Tannehill interception, and all of a sudden, so Tannehill throws the interception intended for Colton Dowell, and Jake Browning puts his helmet on and starts to run out, and Joe basically decides, no, I'm going back out there. And then after the game, Burrow was asked about it, and Burrow said that he was asked, is it a point of pride to finish the game? And he said yes. Like, those guys don't come out of the game. It's like, hey, we're going to take you out of the game. Screw you, coach. Woo. The text line is going crazy about all these people that are bad-mouthing Joe Burrow. Texter says, calling it now, Zach Taylor will be fired after the season. He has mismanaged the Burrow injury so bad, plus he's a bad head coach that lucked out being bad enough for the right year to get Joe Burrow. I agree on most of those fronts. I don't think he mismanaged the Burrow injury.
I mean, he sat out the whole preseason.
I believe that Joe Burrow is the one who calls the shots on when Joe Burrow plays. First of all, I think Joe's the entire organization. And I was actually thinking about this yesterday, about how all these other teams, like the Kansas City Chiefs, were good before Mahomes got there. They weren't great, but they were good. And Andy Reid was good before Mahomes got there. The Patriots, when Brady got hurt, they still won like 11 games that year with Matt Castle as the quarterback. But it's the teams that literally have nothing except for the quarterback that go right down the toilet the second the quarterback's hurt, like the Indianapolis Colts with Peyton Manning. They were in the Super Bowl. Peyton gets hurt. They're the worst team in the league. And that's how I feel about the Bengals. Joe is that entire organization. They paid Joe more money than they'll pay anybody else, maybe ever. And one texter says, take away his weapons going back to college and you'll see an average Joe Burrow. I mean, he had his weapons on Sunday. Joe Burrow's just hurt. But again, you talk about Zach Taylor mismanaging it. I mean, if the doctors tell Joe Burrow he can play, Joe Burrow's going to play. And that has nothing to do with the coach. What, is the coach going to say, hey, Joe, I really need you to play this game? Can you imagine being the head coach and walking into Mike Brown's office? He just wrote Joe Burrow a $260 million check. And you walk into his office and you say, hey, Jake Browning's going to start at quarterback today. And the owner says, wait a minute, didn't I just pay Joe Burrow $260 million? Yeah. And didn't the doctors clear Joe Burrow to play? Yeah. And doesn't Joe want to play? Yeah. So why is Jake Browning playing at quarterback? One texter says Zach Taylor should have been smart and pulled him to protect him after it was evident the Titans were going to win. Again, they wanted to put Browning in the game, but Joe didn't want to come out. And what are you going to do, get in a fight on the sideline with your quarterback? You guys talk about what Zach Taylor should do or shouldn't do or get fired or whatever it may be. What do you think, Zach? You think Zach Taylor has the chutzpah to get into it with Joe Burrow on the sidelines? You think that's a good idea? And the answer is, of course not. And I think Burrow is about 30%. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you want to weigh in, that's 615-737-1025. Trevor normally joins us. Trevor not going to join us today. He'll join us Thursday. Trevor, though, is usually presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics, when experience matters, in Twin Peaks, home of 29-degree drafts and wall-to-wall sports. Coming up next, I do have one giant college football thought. And a lot of people around here aren't going to want to hear it. We'll get to that next. Stillman and
to 21. All the big stories.
I'm sure Vandy will be a much better team if Clark Lee is the coach.
All in one place. We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3.
What a stop by UC Sarah.
Then he wouldn't end up on my team.
Driving his way to victory lane.
I think that's the right strategy.
The Game. and the Game Nashville app.
Country music singer-songwriter Kylie Morgan absolutely loves her Genesis diamond ring.
I got so many compliments as soon as I got the ring and continue to get compliments on it because it looks really pretty on my finger.
Kylie's husband Jay heard folks in the music industry raving about Genesis, but he also did a lot of homework on his own.
When it came to finding the ring, he took it very seriously. He did all the research. I think he knows more about diamonds than any man in the entire world, and that's how he landed on Genesis. He just knew that they were the best.
Jay picked out a stunning, flawless, pear-shaped diamond in an elegant setting. Got the value price Genesis is known for. And now they both tell everyone they meet about the amazing Genesis experience.
When you walk into Genesis, you can just feel the happiness. You know that they're helping find something that symbolizes the love that you have for your partner, and you can feel that as soon as you walk through the door.
Always been you, and I've always been your wife.
Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs.
It's Raymond and Austin. We're back on All-Star Sports Radio. Celebrating their 30th year, our sportsbook and casino sponsor, BetUS.com, is going big.
That's right, Austin. Sports bettors can win a new truck, get the industry's biggest 125% sign-up bonus, and even get up to 30 risk-free bets.
Touchdown. BetUS also has a 150% casino sign-up bonus.
Blackjack, now you're talking, Austin. They also have live dealers and live betting on sports, including racetrack.
Get started today at BetUS.com, where the game begins.
Hey home buyers, TJ Anderson here with More Great Homes. Located just steps from the Whitebridge Shopping and Dining District of Nashville's Hillwood neighborhood, 80 Brookwood Terrace offers 2 homes with over 4,300 square feet, 5 bedrooms, 4.5 baths, formal office, media room, a 2-car garage, and a 1-year builder warranty. Contact my team today at tjandersonhomes.com for more info. Want your home listing to be seen and heard by home buyers? Google TJ Anderson Homes and see why we are referred by clients so often. TJ Anderson Homes at Benchmark Realty, office number 615-432-2919.
It's time to celebrate this fall and unleash the beast. Monster Brewing proudly presents to you Beast Unleashed. 0 caffeine, 0 sugar, all the adult beverage fun. The Beast is unleashed with great taste, bold familiar flavors, and 6% alcohol. Go wild with Mean Green, White Haze, Peach Perfect, and Scary Berries. Don't fear the Beast. Enjoy Beast Unleashed at your next tailgate or football party. Drink responsibly. Must be 21 and over.
eBay Motors is here for the ride. So minivans, sedans, JDMs, roll out. Go ahead, feel your engine. Admire that perfectly installed exhaust. Your vehicle's moving along this freeway like it was made from fresh installs and a whole lot of love. And with eBay Motors, you get over 122 million parts to keep it running. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, they'll be the perfect fit every time. Plus, at these prices, well, we're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Green right, Fox 2 run, double catch. He takes you inside the huddle through the eyes of a quarterback.
Wide 85, take!
Catch ESPN NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck every Tuesday at noon as he breaks down the big stories in the NFL.
Buffalo, maybe Miami.
And with the Tennessee Titans.
The Titans might be like, we're interested in a 1-year, $1 million contract.
Tim Hasselbeck is on Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey Nashville, this is Mookie Betts. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Thorne throws late, intercepted by Georgia. Going the other way as Malachi starts, and that should do it.
Yeah, a lot of credit goes to Auburn and their atmosphere. I told the television stations afterwards, incredible atmosphere every time we come here to play. They got one of the most loyal fan bases there is. They got a lot of respect for Hugh and the job he's done, and great atmosphere to play in. Obviously, we didn't play our best game today, but we're a very resilient team, proud of the way we competed, and we got to continue to get better. I mean, that's the most important thing for our team. So a lot of things we did wrong, a lot of things we did well, but we're not going to get where we want to go if we don't get better. So that's the biggest thing.
Hey, that was Kirby after Georgia barely hung on to beat a terrible Auburn team on Saturday. And this may not be very popular in the South, but sometimes we got to tell it like it is, even if it's not popular. The SEC sucks this year. Like, it stinks. And that includes Georgia and Alabama as to what we expect. Now, Floyd told me, and I would have to, listen to him on this because I'm sure he probably visited every college campus in the country as a former general manager. He said Auburn's toughest place to play in the country. So maybe that had something to do with it. But Georgia played an uninspiring first half against South Carolina, who sucks, and then played a good second half. Other than that, all they've played is Scarbini State. And then they went down to the wire with a terrible Auburn team that can't pass. So I'm not sold on Georgia. Alabama stinks by Alabama standards. I mean, they've already lost a game. Look at the roster. They don't have the Julio Joneses. They don't have the Amari Coopers. They don't have the Jerry Judys. They don't have the Derrick Henrys. They got this Jalen Milroe at quarterback who's not very good. And if Saban could replace him, he would. They're dogfighting it out with South Florida. Alabama's not very good. Then you got Ole Miss. Ole Miss got smoked by Jalen Milroe. LSU can't play any defense. LSU last year got hot at the end of the season, and everybody said, hey, Brian Kelly's the man. Here comes LSU. They've got a Heisman candidate at quarterback, and they played 2 big games so far this year, and they haven't played any defense in the 2 games. They gave up 55 points on Saturday. I mean, they're lucky Arkansas didn't beat them the week before at home. Nobody goes to LSU at night and gives them a fight unless it's Alabama or somebody really, really good. And this is a average Arkansas team that just got their hat handed to them by Texas A&M, who got smoked by Miami. And you look outside of the conference, and the SEC has been terrible too. Florida's awful. I mean, Kentucky just ran them out of there. Ray Davis they turned around, handed the ball to Ray Davis, and he ran up the middle like he was Barry Sanders on every handoff on Saturday. So Florida's awful, and Tennessee got crushed by that horrible Florida team. And so the only team in the SEC that I have not made up my mind on, because A&M's average, Alabama's average, Georgia is above average but not great, Florida's awful, Tennessee's average, South Carolina's bad, Vandy's horrendous, LSU can't play defense. The only SEC team that I have not made up my mind on so far, and we're about halfway through the season, is Kentucky. That's the one team that, Kentucky might actually be kind of good. That being said, they've played Vandy and they've played Florida. So it's not exactly like they played Texas like Alabama did. Now we'll see this week because Kentucky is going to Georgia, and I think that Kentucky has got a shot to beat them because I'm not a believer in Georgia. And if this game were in Lexington, I think I'd be picking the Cats. For some reason, I just don't think Kentucky can throw the ball well enough. But Kentucky is the only team that in the SEC that I don't think I've got figured out yet, and everybody else is below the standards that we expect of this conference. Every single one of them. I mean, what happened to the SEC? And then that leads me to, in the name, image, and likeness and transfer portal era of college football, how is the SEC falling behind? The ACC is unequivocally a better conference than the SEC right now. Florida State is better than every team in the SEC except for maybe Georgia. And if that Georgia team that played at Auburn Saturday were to play Florida State's going to win that game. But top to bottom, North Carolina smoked South Carolina. Duke, now their quarterback's hurt, but Duke, pretty decent this year. We're 5-0 at Louisville with a quarterback that can't throw. We've got Notre Dame this week. Hopefully you'll say a nice little prayer for us this weekend. But this is not, I'm watching all the games, and this is not SEC football. And so I understand how Clemson fell off, because Clemson had a coach that was way too stubborn to embrace what college football has become. I think the SEC has embraced it with open arms for the most part, right? A&M's buying a football team. Saban's yelling at his boosters to donate more money to the NIL collective. Tennessee's got an $8 million quarterback. So I don't understand how the SEC has gotten so bad. But this is a down year for that conference. And I do not think that the best team in the country, and I know Georgia is ranked number 1 right now in the country, but I do not think the best team in the country resides in the SEC. I mean, if I had a vote, and I don't, I'd be thinking about Oregon, Texas, Michigan. I mean, I think the Pac-12 in its last year of existence might be better than the SEC this year. The Pac-12 has Michael Penix, Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, Shedeur Sanders. The ACC has Riley Leonard, Drake May, Jordan Travis. I mean, they've got some quarterbacks now in the ACC and in the Pac-12, and they don't have any quarterbacks in the SEC. The SEC is just atrocious. Just atrocious. I mean, this is not what I'm used to seeing from the SEC. Texter says, what do you think about Missouri, Jared? I have no thoughts on Missouri. I think they suck. I think their coach is a stooge. 615-737-1025. We'll get your phones in on that. 615-737-1025. Plus, Dion calls out the haters. Are there actual haters, though? We'll touch on that next. Stillman & Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Vanderbilt football lives here.
This Saturday, it's Vanderbilt and Florida from Gainesville. Kickoff at 3 p.m. Coverage starts at 1:30.
Your home for the Commodores is 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Twin Peaks is the best in the game. Here, you're in the red zone for every college rivalry and divisional matchup all season long. On game day, you never have to decide which teams to watch, only what combination of bites, burgers, wings, and more to order. Plus, where else are your favorite draft beers always poured at a frozen 29 degrees? Only at Twin Peaks, the #1 sports bar.
Stick around after the sun sets. Twin Peaks is open really late. Wind down with bourbon and late night bites. Only at Twin Peaks.
The Electronic Express 40th anniversary sale is going on now. Help us celebrate 40 years of service and save up to 40% throughout the entire store. This week, get a Hisense 65-inch 4K TV for only $399, or a stainless steel refrigerator only $499. Plus, get up to 60 months special financing on items like a top-load laundry pair, only $349 each, or an LG touchscreen laptop, just $799. Shop our 40th anniversary sale. Electronic Express. We make it happen.
Blue Raider fans, your home for all the MTSU football and men's basketball action is on 93.3 Classic Hits and 95.1 Classic Hits in the borough. Catch the action all season long with Chip Walters on the call. Go Blue Raiders!
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance.
For your free quote, call SelectQuote at 1-800-457-6060. That's 1-800-457-6060. Or go to SelectQuote.com. 1-800-457-6060. That's 1-800-457-6060.
SelectQuote. We shop. You save. Full details on example policies at SelectQuote.com/commercials.
One is a legendary NFL wide receiver.
I gotta be prepared. I have to be ready.
One is a legendary Nashville voice.
You don't have to rely on carrying the ball 250 to 300 times.
And the other has been a legendary trash talker on the playground since the 4th grade.
Nobody is a Pro Bowler on day one of rookie minicamp.
They are Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace. Weekdays at 11 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
We understand what's coming. If you can't see what's coming with CU football, you've lost your mind. You just a flat-out hater. If you can't see what's going on and what's going to transpire over the next several months, something's wrong with you. Yes, sir.
Deion, after the game on Saturday, I got to say, I turned the game off because I thought, Colorado was going to get handedly beaten. And then everybody on Twitter started talking about Colorado was making a comeback, so I turned it back on, and I was a little surprised. I do think there's a moral victory to only lose by a touchdown for Colorado against USC when USC has much better players. But then I hear Deion after the game, if you don't see where we're going, you're a hater. I'm sorry, who is hating? Who does not see that Deion Sanders took Colorado football from the absolute graveyard and made them a must-watch college football program? I mean, I don't think I've seen 4 Colorado games in my life. And I've seen these. I mean, I didn't expect Colorado to beat USC. Colorado shouldn't have beaten USC. But that doesn't take away from the job that Deion's doing. Deion's doing a great job. And so I think I kind of get a little angry when I hear this like holier than thou of the, and this is for all our haters. Who is hating, Deion? Every pregame show is begging you to do their show from your campus. Every sports show in America is having Deion on. Even the non-sports shows. He was on 60 Minutes. Who doesn't believe that Colorado's going to be good? That being said, I do think the hype train for Coach Prime's probably headed into the station. And I'm not saying that people won't watch Colorado because they will. And, I mean, Colorado plays Arizona State this week, and I think they probably should win. And, Colorado will go to a bowl and all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to, like, the season of Deion, I do think that that's kind of over. Like, Deion mania, I think is kind of over. Because, Colorado will be a 7-win football team. And when they play Arizona State, it's not that exciting. By the way, did you see this, Ian, about the Gus Johnson play-by-play calls from Saturday on the Colorado-USC game?
I don't think so.
So they took, like, his calls, and, Gus
Everybody
goes
loves
crazy.
Gus. Yeah.
Yeah, he goes nuts. And, like, USC scored a touchdown. It literally sounded, and I love Gus, but it sounded like a hometown broadcast. Like USC
Were they
scored a touchdown.
cheering almost, huh?
Well, you know how like when you listen to a hometown broadcast, it'll be like, and this is just me doing a hometown football broadcast, but let's say the other team is going to score. 2nd down and 5 from the 8-yard line. 2 receivers to the left. He's got 1 to the right. He motions Johnson into the left side. Smith standing at his own 9-yard line takes a snap. Play action pass. He's looking to roll right. Goes to the end zone, and it is wide open, and it is a touchdown for Jeremy Johnson.
Yeah, kind of low-key.
Yeah, like low-key, and that's a touchdown for Jeremy Johnson. A hometown broadcast is he's got 2 receivers to the left, 1 to the right. He's standing at his own 9-yard line, takes a shotgun snap. He rolls to his right. He's got Johnson, and it's a touchdown!
Okay, I got the parallels there, yes.
So when Gus was calling the game, when USC scored a touchdown, Gus was like, and USC gets off to a start early with a touchdown. Then when Shedeur Sanders scored, they scored a touchdown at some point, and he's sitting there, oh, my God, Shedeur Sanders, he did it, oh, my God. It's
So
like
people
Gus.
think Gus is in the satchel for Colorado, huh?
I mean, Gus is absolutely in the satchel for Colorado.
Well,
that being said, how can you not be?
I think this particular week might have just been a, everyone was expecting USC to kind of blow him out. It was a big spread, and he's trying to, get hype and excitement in the game and keep people involved and keep the ratings up. Colorado's coming back. They're an underdog. Look at this.
I think Gus is in the satchel.
Come on, give him some credit.
No. I think Gus got sucked in by Deion Mania. And, I mean, Joel Klatt's doing the game with him. Joel sounded more neutral than he did, and Joel played quarterback at Colorado. I mean, this is crazy. One texter into the text line, our phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, asked the question, Jared, do you take the SEC or the field for the national championship this year? Ian, I'm going to pose that question to you. SEC or the field for the national championship?
Good question. I'm going to go the field.
Field. Think about this, okay? If I we all know that like Florida, LSU, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Arkansas, A&M, we all know they're already out. Like they're not. And Tennessee, South Carolina, Florida, Vandy, Missouri, like they're all out, right? So right now it's Georgia, Alabama maybe, not likely, and Kentucky that could possibly make it to the playoff. Now, I don't think Kentucky or Alabama will make it, but let's just
Texas doesn't count yet.
Texas is not in the SEC. So, if I got the field, I get Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, Shedeur Sanders, Michael Penix at Washington. I also get Quinn Ewers at Texas.
And you get Michigan, Ohio State.
What's that?
And you get Michigan and Ohio State.
I get Michigan, Ohio State.
Florida State, yep.
And I get Florida State. I mean, it's a crazy talk. I mean, that Georgia quarterback, he sucks. Like, I mean, to me, that's easy. That's one of the easiest questions somebody's ever had. The SEC. Ian? Dun, 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 dun. The SEC will not win the national championship in 2023. I guarantee it. So add that to the list. The SEC will not win the national championship. Ian, how are we doing on our guarantees?
Well, the last one you got correct. Jared guarantees the Titans will cut kicker Michael Badgley.
Thank you.
Jared guarantees Hopkins will not sign with the Bills or the Chiefs.
Thank you.
We have an open-ended one here. Jared says Lamar Jackson will never get to an AFC championship game.
That's going to be a while.
Jared guarantees that Hendon Hooker will go in the first round of the draft. That one was incorrect. And then we're going back a little bit to the spring. So a little bit light on the guarantees lately, but pretty good.
Don't I get credit for I think one of the first ever guarantees on this program that I feel like I can officially cash the betting slip that Corey Davis was never going to make the Pro Bowl as a Jet.
I believe that is a guarantee on here somewhere. Yes, that is correct. I have actually already written down correct, I guess, because he retired. So it does. Jared guarantees Corey Davis will not make a Pro Bowl with the Jets. That was said on Tuesday, June 15th, 2021. Correct.
Cash that ticket, baby. So I guarantee that the SEC will not win the national championship this year. And I feel comfortable with my guarantee. I mean, the only team that can win the championship out of the SEC is Georgia. And I just don't think that Georgia has the firepower to be able to beat some of these other, teams with great quarterbacks. I mean, I got to tell you, I think, and maybe this is a homer thing, I think Oregon might win the national championship this year. And if they do, I will be very, very excited. Mark in Ashland City says, I just put my mortgage on Georgia for the title. Thank you, Jared. I mean, you just heard the guarantees. I've been cranking them out left and right. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. You know what? I'm in a good mood. Let's give away a pair of tickets to see the Predators' home opener on October 12th against the Seattle Kraken at Bridgestone Arena. Be caller 5 right now at 615-737-1025, and you will win those tickets to see the Predators take on the Kraken at Bridgestone Arena for the home opener. Meanwhile, is the heat off of Mike Vrabel now? We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
He knows the ins and outs of the Titans and isn't afraid to give his opinion.
Traylon Burks needs a massive offseason.
He's Jonathan Hutton of Outkick.
I don't see how they make a move without going to Ryan Tannehill.
Catch him every Monday at 10:30 on Chase McCabe and every Wednesday at noon on Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace. Hutton is on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
This is it. The legendary live band Fish returns to the road this fall. Fish. This Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, Bridgestone Arena. On sale now at livenation.com.
DraftKings Sports and Social is bringing you the ultimate fan experience this football season with a 48-foot media wall, 22 TVs, mouth-watering game day eats, and cold beer. DraftKings Sports and Social, opening October 5th at Nashville Live on 2nd Avenue.
Now, your Game Center update.
After a big win over the Cincinnati Bengals on Sunday, the Tennessee Titans will look to turn the page as they take on the Indianapolis Colts this weekend. The NFL revised its gambling policy last week, which means Titans offensive lineman Nicholas Petit-Frere has been reinstated and can begin practicing with the team. Titans head coach Mike Vrabel was asked if he thinks that could create some changes on the O-line.
Yeah, we haven't seen him, for a while since training camp, so the league made a decision on what they felt like they wanted to do, and so we'll hopefully get an exemption for him and practice him and see where he's at as we work closer to the game.
The team announced yesterday that they have designated wide receiver Kyle Phillips to return from injured reserve, opening up his window to practice. Titans versus Colts is set for noon on Sunday. The Major League Baseball playoffs have begun today. Texas took a 1-0 lead over Tampa Bay in the early game. Minnesota and Toronto are in progress, followed by Milwaukee versus Arizona and Miami versus Philly later this evening. From the Game Nashville studios, this is Ian Safar.
Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne.
Ross Chastain will be first to finish in the Ally 500 at Nashville Super Speedway.
Nashville's exclusive home for NASCAR. 102.5 and 106.3.
Checkered flag is in the air. Man, this is a win in the cup race.
The Game.
A Cromwell media station.
Where you have a voice.
He had a competent coaching staff.
You just play terrible and you keep playing.
And we have strong opinions.
What a whiny freaking crybaby response.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to Superbook Sports. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios here on the program. How bad? I feel like I might be projecting my own feelings onto everybody else. And I want to make sure that I don't do that. But this time last week, there was yelling, there was screaming, there was anger, there was a level of dissatisfaction with the head coach of the Tennessee Titans that I have not seen in the 6 years that he has been the coach after the Titans lost 27-3 to the Cleveland Browns. And I very much thought the coach was culpable for that lopsided of a performance. Then the Titans go out there and they beat Cincinnati 27-3. I'm not sure, by the way, I've ever seen that. You lose 27-3 one week and then you win 27-3 the next week. And again, this is a week-to-week league, and you never want to be the team that has to face a team that just got blown out. And the Titans are now a perfect example of that. But I'm not sure that there was a sense of accomplishment or excitement or acceptance or whatever you want to call it about the victory over Cincinnati like there was the anger and the fear that your team might actually be terrible that we got from the Browns game. Does that make any sense, Ian?
I think maybe a little.
I sat there at the stadium, and I felt like I was more mad about the Browns game than I was happy about the Bengals game. Now, some of that might be because the Bengals game followed the Browns game, so it was almost like the Titans had dug a hole for themselves, and they just got back to the top as opposed to, climbing up the ladder and, being way above the hole or up the tree or whatever the, analogy you want to make, whatever. But there was a lot of anger towards Mike Vrabel last week. There was a lot of talk about Mike Vrabel last week. I've always joked that when I was a kid, Philip Fulmer, after winning the national championship at Tennessee, was kind of a sacred cow. And so all of the yelling and screaming on Mondays after Tennessee would lose was usually centered around the offensive coordinator, Randy Sanders, or the defensive coordinator, John Chavis. And then when those phone calls started being about Fulmer, I started thinking, ooh, Fulmer might be in trouble. And not long after those phone calls started being about Fulmer, Fulmer was gone. Well, last week was kind of the first time that the phone calls, the anger, the blame, everything started to be pointed in the direction of Mike Vrabel. When things have not gone well over Vrabel's tenure, there has always been a scapegoat who is not Vrabel. There's Mariota. There's John Robinson. There's Tannehill in the Cincinnati game. There's Todd Downing. It's like everybody else got the blame, and every time the Titans won, Vrabel got all the credit. Then the Cleveland game happened. Can't blame Tannehill. And that's when people started getting mad about Vrabel, because that was Vrabel's left tackle who was out there, and that was Vrabel's offensive coordinator that called those plays that singled up Myles Garrett, and that's Vrabel's defense that was allowing guys to run right by him for touchdowns. And so, at the same time, this week, I don't hear any anger about Mike Vrabel. I don't hear any talk about Vrabel's arrogance. I don't hear anybody upset about Vrabel's left tackle, Vrabel's inside backer, Vrabel's DBs, Vrabel's special teams. Nobody's mad at Vrabel this week, which, again, it's a week-to-week league and you win, so everybody's happy. But I also don't hear a lot of pumping the tires of Mike Vrabel either, if you know what I mean. In years past, anytime the Titans won anything, there was almost this relief of Vrabel. I remember when the Titans won their first game with Vrabel as the coach. It was the second game of the 2018 season. The Titans had gone to Miami, and they had played an 8-hour game, and Delaney Walker had broken his ankle, and they were without both tackles, and Mariota was out, and Blaine Gabbert was playing quarterback, and the Houston Texans, with Deshaun Watson and DeAndre Hopkins and J.J. Watt and Whitney Merciless, came into Nashville. And the Titans were calling up dudes off the practice squad to play tackle against J.J. Watt. And it was like, they have no chance to win this game. And the Titans paper-clipped and gummed their way to a victory. They had Kevin Byard throw a touchdown pass on special teams. They had Jadeveon Clowney, who wasn't even active for the game, a Jadeveon Clowney 15-yard penalty gave the Titans just the right amount of yardage in order to kick a game-winning field goal, and I think they won that game 17-14. And I remember when they won the game and the game was over, and Mike Keith started talking about how the Titans took on the identity of their coach. And from that moment on, every time the Titans won a game, it was always about the coach. It was always, wow, look at Vrabel's game plan to shut down Lamar Jackson in the playoffs. Wow, look at Vrabel using 91 players in order to capture the number 1 seed in the AFC. And even when they lost, like to the Ravens in the playoffs, and Vrabel punted from his own 40 or whatever it was, there wasn't a lot of anger towards Vrabel or blame or nothing. Vrabel's defense was terrible in 2020, and all anybody was really trying to do was figure out who was in charge. Like, that's all it was. Who's the coordinator of the defense? Who's in charge of the defense? We didn't even know. Should we be mad at Shane Bowen? Should we be mad at this guy? Should we be mad at that guy? Who should we be mad at? But we all knew that we weren't going to be mad at Vrabel. And last Sunday, after the Browns game, there was a different feeling. Vrabel didn't get blamed for the end of the year last year with all those losses. Downing did. Robinson did. But not Vrabel. Vrabel didn't get blamed for the Saints' loss. Tim Kelly and Tannehill did. But now that they won a game, I am just a little surprised, almost taken aback by the fact that I don't necessarily really hear anybody saying, wow, Vrabel. And maybe some of that is because the shine has come off the apple a little bit, and people want to see if this is more than just one get-right game. Maybe some of it is because Derrick Henry played like vintage Derrick Henry. And maybe some of it is because, again, even though we want our team to be good, there's also kind of a recognition that we have to have that that's not the Cincinnati Bengal team that has been giving you problems for the last 2 years. That is a Cincinnati Bengal team with Joe Burrow on one leg. And so, yeah, you beat them. And, yeah, Tim Kelly called a great game. And, yeah, Tannehill threw the ball well. And, yeah, Henry ran the ball well. But it wasn't like you were really going shot for shot with Joe Burrow. Because that's not – Joe Burrow is hurt. And you all know that. Which I'm a little surprised by. And I'm not insulting your intelligence with what I'm about to say. But most of the time, I think 85% of Titans fans get it and they understand. And, you know, you saw the game Sunday. Joe Burrow wasn't right. And then I think there's like the other, 15% that's like, Jared, how dare you take away from our accomplishments and what we did this week? We won that game fair and square. We don't need. And I haven't really heard a lot of that. Like, I haven't heard a lot of, hey, the defense was great. It doesn't matter if that was Joe Burrow or Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or Tom Brady. That doesn't matter. I haven't really heard any of that. So maybe that's why, again, Vrabel's not getting credit for the win. But I find it fascinating that after 5 years of every time you win, Vrabel gets all the credit. Every time you lose, Vrabel gets none of the blame. That in the last 2 weeks, we've had team gets blown out 27-3. Vrabel's the bad guy. Team wins 27-3. Nobody's talking about Vrabel. I am a little surprised by that. And I can't really put my finger on why that is. I can't tell you that it's, that you guys have waned on Vrabel because I don't know. I mean, I still think Vrabel's a good coach, but, I have been very disappointed with some of the decisions that I have seen lately and some of the incompetence. And I think some of it, too, is the Titans so far this season have been one step backwards, one step forward. Lose a game by 1 point to the Saints at the very end of the game, turn around and win a game by 3 points in overtime. Get blown out, turn around and do the blowing out. It's like, great. So now you're at even footing, and let's see how you do this week. I don't know. Against the Colts, I don't know. If people are down on Vrabel, and that's why he's not getting the credit. I don't know if people are giving Vrabel the credit, and I'm just the one who hasn't really thought like, hey, let's talk a lot about Vrabel. I don't know. But I am surprised by the fact that the story all last week was about Mike Vrabel. And the story after the Titans dominate the Cincinnati Bengals, a team that Mike Vrabel has never beaten, is not about Mike Vrabel. 615-737-1025. Throw that to the list if you want to get in there. 615-737-1025 here on our program. So I did say that I was going to watch the AFC South teams because right now everybody's 2-2, and the Texans rookie quarterback just threw for 300 yards, and Anthony Richardson is playing well for the Colts, and the Titans are getting ready to play the Colts, and everybody's sitting there tied at the division. So I did. And I have my evaluation of the AFC South so far, and I was surprised after watching all those games this morning. I was surprised by who I think the best team is. That's not the Titans. And I'm not even sure I would say the Titans are the best team. We'll get to that next. 615-737-1025. It's Stillman and Company on 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
He breaks down every game.
The players are still going to be fine.
And knows the ins and outs of the two-tone blue.
They deal with their own position coaches.
He is ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter Teron Davenport.
It's clear what he's doing.
TD joins every Monday at 1, Thursdays at 3, Friday mornings at 8, and anytime on the Talkin' with TD podcast.
I think that's really cool how he could show both sides.
TD is on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Put Lee Company on your team and stay ahead of the game with home maintenance, improvements, and repairs. For only $12 per month, you'll receive 4 visits to your home each year by an experienced technician and discounts on service calls, parts, and labor. You'll also receive priority service with no emergency service rates. Let Lee Company keep your air conditioning, plumbing, electrical, and heating systems in tip-top shape. Visit LeeCompany.com today and schedule your first appointment online. Lee Company, all you need.
Country music singer-songwriter Kylie Morgan loves her ring from Genesis Diamonds.
I wanted something simple and with the stone that I loved, and that's exactly what he got. And then we dressed it up a little bit with the wedding bands, got a little firework action looking around it, and he definitely killed it when it came to choosing the ring.
Kylie's then-fiancé Jay did a lot of research, but chose Genesis because of the reputation, the quality, the personal service, and of course, the value.
Any man can walk through that door and know that, he's not going to be upsold or pressured to buy anything.
Kylie ended up writing a collection of songs about her bridal experience, including the viral sensation Bridesmaids.
I had at least 1,000 DMs asking from future brides where I got my ring, who I worked with because of the viral song. I think everyone kind of just looked at me as the person to ask.
And Kylie's advice to all those girls?
Go to Genesis. It's been a great experience, and they'll take care of you.
Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills, and Cool Springs.
O'Reilly Auto Parts' new Brake Best Select Pro brand raises the bar for the best aftermarket domestic brake pads and rotors available. For vehicle-specific friction formulations, Quiet Tech noise-canceling shims, and stainless steel hardware, choose Brake Best Select Pro. Professional-grade brakes from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts. Want to weigh in on the conversation?
It's a brain booster.
Slide into our DMs. Or just text or call at 615-737-1025. Our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Strong opinions and a strong personality on your drive home. This is Stillman and Company on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
1 quarter in, how do you feel about
which way you slice that 17th game, Corey? Who gets that piece of the pie? That's a little sweetener?
Yeah.
We just got to be more consistent. We need to get on the road and be able to go win on the road in the division. And it's going to be a huge test. So that's where our focus is, and trying to execute the keys each week and take care of the difference in taking care of the football and being able to get off the field on third down, all these things affect the quarterback.
Vrabel's like, yeah, we got to do all these things to win the game, Whatever the normal spiel is, just go ahead and put that one on replay for what we got to do all these weeks and so on and so forth. But right now, 4 games into the year, everybody's 2-2. Now, everybody else has played division games. Jacksonville has beaten Indianapolis. Houston has beaten Jacksonville. Indianapolis has beaten Houston. And Jacksonville's beaten Indianapolis. So everybody's beaten each other except for you because you haven't played a divisional game. But again, for the most part, everybody's 2-2. So I did watch a handful of games this morning after watching the Titans film. I did watch a handful of games this morning of the AFC South teams because I wanted to get a sense for what's actually happening. Like C.J. Stroud threw for 300 yards on Sunday against the Steelers. But I was more impressed with the Texans' defense than I was with C.J. Stroud. They're throwing a bunch of screen passes and getting big yards after the catch and so on and so forth. So I'm going to go through each team and give you the evaluation of what I see in the games that I've watched. And I am a little surprised to admit that I think the best team right now in the AFC South, and I can't really compare the Titans to the other 3 teams because I just have such a stronger knowledge of the Titans. Like I've seen every play of every game like 8 times, whereas with these, I watched it once. Right now, I think the Texans are the best team in the division. And I'm going to tell you why. The Texans, we'll start with them. The Texans are much better coached than they have been in the past. No disrespect to David Culley, who I think is a good coach. But like last year, Lovie Smith, the Texans are well coached. And Bobby Slowick is their offensive coordinator. And everybody told me that Bobby Slowick was Kyle Shanahan's right-hand man. Now, I don't know what it is about Belichick, that people that leave Belichick in New England go get their own jobs and don't know the difference between third down and fourth down. They don't know the difference between a punt and a kick. I don't know how that's possible. But it does feel like a lot of these guys leave Shanahan and they've got a pretty good feel for what it is that Shanahan does. Whether it's McVay, McDaniel, you name it, those guys that have left San Francisco as the offensive coaches seem to have a pretty good feel. And Bobby Slowick is no different. When I watch the Texans, I see Bobby Slowick finding ways to get the ball into the hands of their playmakers, most notably Nico Collins at wide receiver. Stroud looks like a rookie quarterback from the standpoint that he really only looks at that one read and, they try to draw it up for him to get somebody open. And if it's not there, he's going to take off and run. But he is accurate. He is confident. And again, Nico Collins, that wide receiver they have, he is a playmaker now. Damian Pierce had a good game on Sunday against the Steelers, both running the ball and catching a screen pass. And so those are kind of the 2 big weapons that Stroud has. But the yards that he's putting up, they're like San Francisco yards. It's like, Jimmy Garoppolo throws it short to Deebo Samuel, and Deebo Samuel trucks 3 guys and goes 35 yards for a touchdown. That's what C.J. Stroud's doing. And so I see a lot of San Francisco when I look at the Texans. Their defense, it's a lot of the same names. Guys like Jalen Petrie and Jerry Hughes and things like that, but their defense is tough. Now, some of that just might be the Steelers themselves, and their defense was getting run over by Anthony Richardson in the Colts game. But I just feel like the Texans are much better coached with DeMeco Ryans and Bobby Slowick. And so right now, I would say the Texans are the best team in the South. Indy is a weird team. Their defense stinks. Their receivers stink. Their tight ends stink. Their offensive line stinks. But they've got Anthony Richardson, who shows his Superman-like abilities on a very consistent basis. Now, he himself is not consistent because one throw to the next is not the same for him. But it's like every game that I watched of Richardson, he showed the Superman ability, including last week against the Rams. Now, I don't buy the Colts over the long haul because I think that teams are going to scheme defensively for Richardson. And when they scheme defensively, starting with you on Sunday, when they scheme for Richardson, what's going to have to happen is there's going to have to be like another guy that can kind of take over the game as a receiver, a running back, something like that. And I just don't think the Colts have those guys, and I don't think Jonathan Taylor is going to be physically in a spot where he can dominate the way that Jonathan Taylor is capable of dominating. But if he had an A.J. Brown, and I do think Shane Steichen is running, a good offense there, and it is very much the Jalen Hurts offense, but he can't throw outside the numbers to A.J. Brown the way Jalen Hurts can. If he had an A.J. Brown, I would be scared of the Colts right now. If I were in Indianapolis, I would be trying to figure out what is it going to take for me to get whoever the disgruntled receiver of the year is, what would it take to get him? If it's Devontae, if it's Justin Jefferson, whoever it may be, there's probably going to be a receiver, a high-end receiver that ends up on the move. What do I have to do to get that guy? Or will I be able to draft that guy this year? Because if you put Garrett Wilson on the Indianapolis Colts and Richardson had that guy, he can already throw it. I mean, and it's a flick of the wrist. There was one TD said I had to watch a throw to Alec Pierce. He's on the run, and he fires a ball on the sidelines, and Pierce is getting interfered with, and it hits him right in between the 1 and the 4, and Pierce ends up catching the ball. He had one in the end zone that he threw for Michael Pittman that Dan Orlovsky today was like, he should have caught it for a touchdown. That I'm like, how do you dudes miss some of these throws? But their defense is horrible. Their receivers are not good. Their tight ends, they still have Mo Alley Cox, but he's still Mo Alley Cox. And I think their offensive line sucks. And I think their win against Baltimore was a fluke. And then there's Jacksonville. And yes, Jacksonville beat the stuffing out of Atlanta and London on Sunday, but I think they stink. Like, I think the Colts are a below-average team that's got a young quarterback, that's got a promising future, because there's so many different quarterbacks I see when I look at Anthony Richardson. I see some Josh Allen. I see some Cam Newton. I see some Jalen Hurts. I see some, believe it or not, Mariota. I see some Derrick Henry in Anthony Richardson's game. But with Jacksonville, I just don't think they're very good. Jacksonville won on Sunday with 300 yards of total offense. That is not sustainable. They won the game because Desmond Ridder turned the ball over 3 times, and he tried to turn it over 4 or 5 times. And right now, Trevor Lawrence, and I don't hear anybody out there that thought he was going to be league MVP, or he was the next Joe Burrow, or he's going to ascend this year, or he's throwing the ball as well as any quarterback in the league. I don't hear anybody coming out and saying, wow, I was wrong about that, because Trevor Lawrence is a game manager right now. He's going to throw the ball for about 220 yards, and he's going to throw the ball to 2 people, Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram. Every now and then he'll throw the ball to Ridley, but those are the 2 guys he wants to go to, Kirk and Ingram. And he's averaging about 235 yards a game. And how about this? Yards per attempt, which is a very big, Vegas stat and a stat people. He's got less yards per attempt. Talking about Trevor Lawrence. He's got less yards per attempt than Ryan Tannehill. Think about how crazy that is. Less yards per attempt than Tannehill. I think Jacksonville's bad. I mean, I think, now again, everybody's 2-2. And if the only game you watch of the Titans was the Browns, you'd think they're bad too. But right now, if I had to rank them, so far through the 4 games, just what I've seen, and I haven't watched every game, but I've watched enough of them now of the rest of the AFC South. Texans 1, Colts 2, Jags 3. And I can't put you in there because I know too much about you. I do think this. I think the Titans are going to be able to run the ball on the Colts on Sunday. And I think the Titans are going to be able to throw the ball on the Colts on Sunday. And I know I, didn't give the defense any credit with winning in the dominant fashion with which they did against Cincinnati, where they allow a field goal and then they allow nothing else the rest of the game after the first drive because of Joe Burrow's injury. But I do expect the defense, at least right now while he's a rookie with no receivers and a bad offensive line, I do expect the defense to dominate Anthony Richardson on Sunday. Or dominate might be light, but contain the Superman-like talent that Anthony Richardson has. 615-737-1025 if you want to weigh in, 615-737-1025 here on the program. And so there is one thing about the Titans wide receivers that I feel like just needs to be said. And so I'm going to say it before they start game planning for the Colts, which will be tomorrow. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, 615-737-1025, 102.5-106.3 The Game.
All the big plays.
Rebound, try out in front, and Saros covers it up.
All the big stories.
Andrew Burnett reportedly hired as the next head coach of the Predators.
All in one place. We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3.
Checkered flag is in the air.
Comparing goalies to running backs.
46-27 Vanderbilt.
Does this group of players need more?
The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Houston Clinic Orthopedics in Springfield at Northcrest Medical Center offers world-class orthopedic care. This location specializes in general orthopedics, arthroscopic surgery, sports medicine, hip, knee, and shoulder. Get back to enjoying life sooner by scheduling your appointment at tn.houston.com. Houston Clinic Orthopedics in Springfield is conveniently located at the Northcrest Medical Center. When experience matters, trust Houston Clinic Orthopedics.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
At Fisher Investments, we do things differently, and other money managers don't understand why.
Because our way works great for us.
But it may not work for your clients. That's why Fisher Investments is a fiduciary, obligated to put clients first. It's the highest standard for a financial advisor.
So, what do you provide? Cookie-cutter portfolios like the rest of us?
No cookie-cutter portfolios here. Fisher Investments tailors portfolios to meet each client's goals and needs.
But you do sell investments that earn you high commissions, right? And make commissions when you make trades for your clients?
No, Fisher Investments doesn't sell any commission investment products, and we never earn commissions on trades.
So what's in it for you?
Fisher Investments fees are structured so we do better when our clients do better. When it comes to helping clients achieve a comfortable retirement, we're clearly different. Visit FisherInvestments.com to find out why investors like you switch to us. Fisher Investments, clearly different money management.
Investments in securities involve the risk of loss.
Whether it's college football,
players might end up not going to Alabama or Georgia,
or the NFL.
I think that this team wins the AFC South.
Trevor knows. Join ESPN's Trevor Maddich every Tuesday at 4:30 on Stillman and Company as he gives his opinions on the latest from the gridiron.
I'm going to the team where I can get a ring.
Trevor Maddich brought to you by Houston Clinic Orthopedics, where experience matters, on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey Nashville, this is David Price. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Fake to Henry again. Under pressure. Good hands catch that time for a touchdown. It's Nick Westbrook-Akine.
All right, there he is right here. Now watch him come across. This is called a slide right here. So he's going to come across the formation. You see him sliding through there. catches the ball underneath, and that's all about the quarterback flipping his head around, making sure he finds that slider, delivering the ball off that play action.
Second touchdown of the season for Westbrook-Akine. Bigger role for him with Traylon Burks out.
In what ways did the receivers step up with Traylon out?
Well, Nick and Chris, they have made plays throughout the early part of this season when called upon. Those guys work extremely hard. They play on special teams for us. They know all receiver spots, invaluable, versatile players. So I was happy to see them have success, and they both came up with big plays today.
There you go. That was Vrabel after the Nick Westbrook-Akine touchdown. And Chris Moore had some big catches. And I don't know what the injury report's going to be tomorrow for practice. I don't know what the game plan is going to be this week against Indianapolis. But I've just got to get something off my chest. Somebody texted into the text line earlier today, and they said, did you hear what D. Mace said about how Traylon Burks should be giving up his playing time to Chris Moore and Nick Westbrook-Akine, or that the Titans should be giving Traylon Burks snaps to those two guys going forward because they produce? Now, I didn't hear what Derek said, but I agree with that sentiment right now. Right now, I kind of like where the Titans are at wide receiver. DeAndre is the main guy, and it's a work in progress with him and Tannehill, but you saw the one they hit on the sideline this week, and I do think that the more that they're out there together, the more that they keep throwing to each other, the more they keep believing in each other, that ultimately that'll pay off and DeAndre will continue to be DeAndre Hopkins. So I'm happy with what I'm getting out of DeAndre Hopkins right now. Nick Westbrook-Akine is the high-volume guy that Ryan Tannehill trusts. You know, we talk about Kyle Phillips, and we'll get to him more in a second, but wanting that slot guy that the quarterback can just wear out throwing the ball to, just wear it out, wear it out, wear it out, wear it out. I think that that's what Nick Westbrook-Akine can be for this team. And I watched the Rams on Sunday against the Colts, and they've got this Puka Nacua, who they drafted in the 5th round out of BYU, and he's their new Cooper Kupp. Like Stafford throws the ball to the other guys, Van Jefferson and Tutu Atwell and these other guys, but every big throw is going to Puka Nacua every time. And it's like you can see watching the game how Matthew Stafford just trusts Nacua will get open every time. And that's what Westbrook-Akine is doing for Tannehill. So if Tannehill trusts Nick Westbrook-Akine, why would you take him off the field to put somebody else out there that no matter what Tannehill says, it's obvious he doesn't have the trust in that guy that he has in NWI, because Tannehill has the most trust in Nick Westbrook-Akine. And then Chris Moore's been their deep ball guy. He's kind of got the Chris Sanders thing going on. You know, in 2000, Derek Mason was the number one receiver. Chris Sanders caught 6 passes over 35 yards. It kept defenses honest from loading the box against Eddie George. And that's what Chris Moore's become. And I kind of like the three of those guys together. And the other thing is, and they were not perfect at this because, you know, Moore missed a block that led to a tackle, and Westbrook-Akine had a false start the other night. But we know the Titans are going to win based upon running the football. You know, it was the run that got established, and then the passing game took off on Sunday against the Bengals. Well, NWI and Moore are better run blockers than any of the other receivers that you have. So if Nick Westbrook-Akine is catching a bunch of passes and Chris Moore is a deep ball threat, and he's a better run blocker in the run game than Traylon Burks is, then you can keep defenses off balance because Derrick Henry's in the game and they're worried he's going to get the ball, but you also have to be worried about Chris Moore running down the field on a deep ball. And I don't mean to be mean when it comes to Burks and Phillips, but those guys have been given every opportunity for the last 2 years. And you can't make the club in the tub. And so if those guys keep getting hurt, and then when they play, I can't trust Burks to catch the ball. I can't trust Phillips to catch a punt. And why would I invest in these guys right now? Why would I take passes away from productive receivers like Westbrook-Ikhine and Moore to give them to Burks, who I'm not even sure can catch the ball right now? Though going into the season, we didn't think the Titans had any wide receivers. So we just kind of shrugged it off like, well, you're going to give the ball to Burks because who else do you have to give the ball to? But right now, I'd rather give the ball to those three guys than give the ball to Burks, who might not catch it, or give the ball to Phillips, who hasn't played in the game in like a year and a half. But the Titans just keep giving those guys opportunities. And, you know, Vrabel always talks about how it doesn't matter where you were drafted, or it doesn't matter, you know, how much talent you have, or, you know, things like that. And that all that matters is that you earn what you get. But I do think that the Titans, with those two in particular, they just keep giving them opportunities. And so if Derek said that he thinks the game plan this week against Indianapolis should be more focused on Westbrook-Ikhine and Moore than it should be on Burks, I agree. And I hate it because Burks has more talent than both of those guys. I mean, Burks has a lot more talent than both of those guys. And everybody that knows Treylon Burks, and I'm not one of these people, but everybody that knows Treylon Burks, they say he is just the most upstanding guy. But if I can't get the production out of you that I can get out of these guys that I'm paying $1 million to, I can't wait forever. And what I would hope that it would do, though I don't expect that this is what would happen, what I would hope would happen is that when Burks gets the game plan tomorrow morning and sees that there's not a lot in there for him, and that there's a lot more in there for Westbrook-Ikhine and for Chris Moore, that would then motivate him to get his spot back in the lineup. And then if he can outplay those guys, then put him in there. But I don't want to take the guys that are performing well out just so I can put in a guy that I drafted highly that I keep waiting to come around. So I like the wide receivers the way they are right now. Phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Keith from Bowling Green says Jacksonville has a good defense. I'm not convinced of that. I am not convinced that Jacksonville has a good defense. They do have good players. I think a lot of their good defensive players are probably more underrated, like Aluaquan and Andre Sisco, the safety, Tyson Campbell, the corner. I mean, everybody knows about their first-round picks, and Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker. But I do like, you know, some of those guys on defense, but I'm not convinced. Like what you saw out of Cleveland, I'm not convinced that's what Jacksonville is. And that's not a good enough defense for me to think that you can stop them. One texter into the text line says, the reason why people aren't hyping up the Titans after their big win over Cincinnati is because it's the Titans special, lose to average teams and beat the playoff teams. I don't know about Cincinnati or the Chargers making the playoffs. I certainly don't know about Cincinnati making the playoffs. Now, apparently Cincinnati starts off slow every year, and then Joe gets them cooking after about week 6 or 7. And considering that Joe's hurt, you know, maybe it'll be week 6, 7, 8 that Joe gets back to being Joe, and then they'll be cooking. But right now, I don't think that the two teams you beat, I don't think they're playoff teams. Texter says, Kyle Phillips looked great last year versus New York when he was healthy. Why the Kyle Phillips slander? I mean, he never plays. And that New York game was over a year ago. That was like a year and a month ago. So if I'm going to get one good game out of you every 13 months, I don't need you on my team. I mean, since then, and again, I'm not the biggest Nick Westbrook-Ikhine fan. That guy does the morning show for us, who's the biggest Nick Westbrook-Ikhine fan. But
Although Joe's bold prediction earlier this year before the season start that Nick Westbrook-Akine wouldn't even make the roster.
Yeah, what a stooge take by Joe, especially considering that's his boy. But Nick Westbrook-Akine had big games last year against the Broncos and against the Commanders, and I'm not saying that Nick Westbrook-Akine is Randy Moss, but it's like, well, Kyle Phillips had a good game, Jared. Yeah, one. And NWI's had some good games. The problem is that NWI doesn't have a good game every week. You know, A.J. Brown has a good game every week, and that's what you want. But right now, you only have what you have. And I just don't want to sit here and wait on Burks and wait on Phillips for forever when I've got guys that right now kind of fit what Tannehill's trying to do, and it seems like they do a pretty decent job at it. One texter into the text line says, what do you think about Josh Wiley in the passing game? I like Josh Wiley. I thought he had a good game. When I watched the tape, you know, and you see the behind angle, and I mean, Wiley delivered some thump out there. I mean, that kind of gave me a little bit of hope that they're going to use him more and that he's going to be a better blocker and maybe gives them something, you know, that they haven't had in a while. 615-737-1025 if you want to weigh in. 615-737-1025 here on Stillman & Company. Apparently, I've angered the morning show. We will discuss that next. Stillman & Company, 1025-1063 The Game.
Blue Raider football lives on 93.3 Classic Hits.
Coming up Wednesday, the Blue Raiders take on Jacksonville State in the blackout game at Floyd Stadium. Join Chip Walters and Big Joe Dubin starting at 6 o'clock.
Your home for the Blue Raiders is 93.3 Classic Hits.
Attention all fire protection, commercial plumbing, and HVAC experts. Jarrett Companies are looking for experienced field technicians like you. Tired of working for your large corporate employer? Work for a company where you're more than just a number. Jarrett's Fire Protection, commercial plumbing, and HVAC divisions are owned and operated by Nashville natives who want you to grow with their amazing team.
Hi, I'm Jason Jarrett, owner of Jarrett Companies. I'm looking to hire experienced experts and will offer a sign-on bonus of up to $5,000 for certified professionals. In addition to our great benefits that include a 401k match, PTO, and top pay with annual bonuses, we'll also provide you with top-of-the-line tools, trucks, and equipment that you need to grow your career. Our customer base is large and our business is booming with many opportunities for advancement. Give us a call or go online to JarrettCompaniesInc.com and apply today to become a member of our family and protect our community. That's JARRETT CompaniesInc.com. Jarrett Companies, where we are above and beyond industry standards.
The Electronic Express 40th Anniversary Sale is going on now. Help us celebrate 40 years of service and save up to 40% throughout the entire store. This week, get a Hisense 65-inch 4K TV for only $399, or a stainless steel refrigerator only $499. Plus, get up to 60 months special financing on items like a top-load laundry pair, only $349 each, or an LG touchscreen laptop, just $799. Shop our 40th Anniversary Sale. Electronic Express. We make it happen.
The Nashville Oktoberfest is quickly approaching, and now's the time to get your dirndls, lederhosen, and party steins ready. From local breweries to live music and festival artisans, you can't go wrong celebrating this free family fun Germantown tradition. The Nashville Oktoberfest 2023, Thursday, October 5th through the 8th at Bicentennial Mall in Germantown. Prepare yourself for 4 days of brats, beer, live music, and competitions. VIP experience reservations are still available at thenashvilleoktoberfest.com. Prost, y'all!
Are you drowning in credit card debt? Want to get cash out of your home's equity? Loan Pronto can do it now in less than a week. Hey, Willie Donick here. That's right. Loan Pronto's Equity Express line of credit just got even faster. You can get $50,000, $100,000, even $200,000 in as little as 5 days. You don't even have to touch your primary mortgage. You can keep that 3% rate intact. Get just the money you need and pay off all those credit cards or get that home improvement project started. With this revolutionary program, you can access up to 90% of your home's value, and in most cases, there's no appraisal. Stop paying insane interest rates to the credit card companies and get tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash in as little as 5 days. Call Loan Pronto now for the even faster Equity Express line. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. 615-499-5780. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval.
Insightful discussion.
When we talk about the person that these players are.
3 goals scored in the first 5 minutes.
He wants to be the starter, day one.
Mixed with spirited debate.
Okay, but
Derek, let's Professor Derek. They are Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace. With Caroline Fenton, Willie Donick, and former NFL wide receiver Derek Mason.
We got the whole thing covered. We got it all covered.
Here.
Weekdays at 11 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
As you're talking, I'm looking at the text line to see if anybody's chimed in. But I just looked at like the one of the most recent ones from 5:54 yesterday.
Yeah.
I know Vrabel's a lot to blame, but I'm still not sure he should be fired. What was Jared talking about yesterday?
I don't know.
We're firing Vrabel now. Are we
Maybe
firing
so.
Vrabel?
He did text me from my scale the other day of like, where am I at on the firing Vrabel scale?
Okay. The scale. So, in other words, he asked for your number 1 to 10?
Correct.
Okay. And what was your number?
I think it was like 2.3.
Right now, there's nothing. It's a 1-2 team, and you have a very good coach.
I still think he is a very, very, very good coach in the National Football League, and it kind of boggles my mind.
One person can really hold him accountable. It's Amy Adams Strunk. So if you think that's the answer, I think you're crazy.
I love Mike Vrabel, and I think he's good. And I understand bemoaning the struggle right now, and I'm surprised, frankly, by the degree of the struggle.
I've long believed that Vrabel is a really, really good coach. I still believe that Vrabel is a really, really good coach, and I don't think that there is any sort of hot seat talk right now with him that is valid.
I think there's no scenario this year that would not have him in this job next year if he wants to be in the job.
I think Mike Vrabel, in the big picture overall, remains an excellent coach.
Who's coddling Vrabel? This is my question. I mean, again, like when you say hold him accountable, does this mean Vrabel, get out here? You go to your room.
There you go. That was the mashup last week of all the times that I felt like the morning show said, Vrabel's a great coach. And Joe demanded Friday morning that I get the tape. So I got the tape, and we played the tape on Friday. And apparently the Rex rant this morning at 7:45, Joe was all worked up, saying that basically accusing me of lying. Joe, because, we took the cuts and then we had the, the little transition sound effect. Joe basically made it sound like we took them out of context, that, they were saying, Vrabel's a great coach, and we cut the butt out. So during the break, I listened back to that cut right there that we just played of all the different takes. And I think there were 7 takes in there. And of the 7 takes, only 2 of them, and I think they were both Robbie, were not, ended with a period that was ending a complete thought. So, Ian, can we get that cut again? Again, what Joe is accusing me of doing is of taking out context and of basically, lying about what they said. Let's play the cut again. And leave my mic open, please, Ian, when you do this.
As you're talking, I'm looking at the text line to see if anybody's chimed in. But I just looked at like the one of the most recent ones from 5:54 yesterday.
Yeah.
I know Vrabel's a lot to blame, but I'm still not sure he should be fired. What was Jared talking about yesterday?
I don't know.
We're firing Vrabel now. Are we
Maybe
firing
so.
Vrabel?
He did text me from my scale the other day of like, where am I at on the firing Vrabel scale?
Okay. The scale. So in other words, he asked for your number 1 to 10.
Correct.
Okay. And what was your number?
I think it was like 2.3.
Right now, there's
complete
there's
thought.
Nothing. It's a 1-2 team, and you have a very good coach.
I still think complete thought. A very, very, very good coach in the National Football League, and it kind of boggles my mind.
One person can really hold him accountable. It's Amy Adams Strunk. So if you think that's the answer, I think you're crazy.
Complete
I
thought.
love Mike Vrabel, and I think he's good. And I understand bemoaning the struggle right now, and I'm surprised, frankly, by the degree of the struggle.
I've long believed that Vrabel is a really, really good coach. I still believe that Vrabel is a really, really good coach, and I don't think that there is any sort of hot seat talk right now with him that is valid.
I
Complete
think
thought.
there's no scenario this year that would not have him in this job next year if he wants to be in the job.
I think Mike Vrabel, in the big picture overall, remains an excellent coach.
Who's coddling Vrabel is my question. I mean, again, like when you say hold him accountable, does this mean Vrabel, get out here? You go to your room.
Okay, I think that most of those were complete thoughts, as in there was a period at the end of what they said. There was one Robbie cut in there that definitely was not a complete thought and was just a before the period got in there. Everything else I thought was a complete thought from Joe, Robbie, or Paul. Ian, your thoughts?
Well, there are a couple of sentences and thoughts there that I'd like to hear continued as a, perhaps, a little bit of an amendment to what they had talked about earlier on.
Well, we're not just going to replay whole segments of the Robbie and Rex Road program. I mean, we're not going to just sit here and say, okay, here's a 6-minute cut of sound. We're not going to do that. Nobody does that. Somebody asked me one time why I'd rather just take cuts that people say on the air as opposed to have them on as a guest. This was when, Willie was defending the Predators' plan with David Poyle and was yelling at the callers, which, by the way, was some very juicy and enticing radio. And I would just, play the cut and then disagree with it. And somebody asked me, they were like, well, why don't you have Willie on to discuss it? I said, because I don't need 10 minutes for that 38-second cut that is the gist of what I want to discuss. So, I mean, unless I just run the whole Robbie and Rex Road program, there's no way for me to, without cutting. Again, you hear periods at the end of those cuts. So I don't think it's dishonest. Now, did I definitely put the sound music in there and everything else to make it a little more dramatic on Joe and Paul and Robbie after they said, we didn't say those things? Yes, I did. Yes, I did that a little bit, yes. But to act like it's disingenuous or dishonest or, like I was taking them out of context or, I think you got the gist of what they think from those cuts. In fact, I don't think there's anything in those cuts that they would say that they take back. Or I would ask this question. What in there was out of context? What did I put in that little mashup that you don't believe? Or that you disagree with? Or that you felt like was not fairly articulated? That would be my only question there. That's it for us. We're out of here today. What a great show. And I did not know until somebody tweeted me with the podcast that Joe's rant was about me this morning. But, man, I love that. That's it for us. We're out of here. Riddle and the Reporter, they're coming up next. We'll see you tomorrow, too.